Chapter 75. Qin Wentian stood up and left the Dream Sky Forest. In his heart, he was thinking, if he was the one fighting against Yanaro, what would have happened? Wentian. Qin Wentian, who was in the midst of contemplation, turned to Luo Huan upon hearing her voice. Smiling, he greeted, "Senior sister, you're here. Didn't you say that you wanted to meet with your sister Qin Yao? I've asked around for you, there's someone who can help you with this matter." Luo Huan spoke to Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to feel joy. He really wanted to meet with Qin Yao and have a chat with her. "What are the arrangements?" Qin Wentian inquired. 7 days later, there will be a banquet personally hosted by the third prince. In name, Qin Yao is invited, but at the same time, there are also many people from the aristocratic circles invited. I've already contacted some acquaintances, and they can arrange for you to attend. However, you might meet some people you don't wish to see, so I'm not sure if you're willing to go. Luo Huan smiled, causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flicker with sharpness. Banquet of the Royal Clan. The people of Snowcloud Country are very protective of Qin Yao. It won't be easy to meet with her. Luo Huan continued. Qin Wentian naturally understood this point. His status was extremely awkward. It was naturally impossible for someone from the Qin clan to enter the aristocratic circles. "Senior sister, I've troubled you to ask for help from the aristocratic circles." Qin Wentian gratefully thanked Qin Yao. Since there was such an opportunity, he naturally wouldn't miss it. "You are really stubborn." Luo Huan rolled her eyes at Qin Wentian. "I don't dislike those from the aristocratic circles. On the contrary, many of them are extremely outstanding. Other than a few silk pants like Yi Wuke and Orkan, they are all extremely outstanding. What I don't like is that they have brought that kind of atmosphere to the Emperor Star Academy. Wentian, in this royal capital, you have to be vigilant at all times. Don't underestimate your enemies. For example, in the royal clan of Chu, there are 4 princes and 5 princesses. These 4 princes are all exceedingly outstanding. The third prince that I mentioned earlier, is one of them. He's also the most likely candidate to inherit the Chu country. This time around, you should pay attention to him." "Yes." Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head, feeling moved in his heart. The fact that the members of the Knights Association were able to form such a powerful force within the Emperor Star Academy, undoubtedly proved how outstanding the members of the Knights Association were. With a large amount of resources, they all worked hard to cultivate. For ordinary people, if they didn't work hard and didn't struggle, it would be very difficult to compare with them. Hence, countless people wanted to enter the Emperor Star Academy. Because in here, they could rely on their own hard work to obtain good cultivation techniques, innate techniques, and other cultivation resources. Not only that, they wouldn't need to be restricted by others. "Senior sister, there are still 7 days left. During these 7 days, can you help me temper my movement technique?" Qin Wentian asked Luo Huan. "You want senior sister to accompany you for so long?" Luo Huan smiled as she looked at Qin Wentian. "Senior sister, my movement technique has reached a bottleneck. You have to help me." Qin Wentian shamelessly replied. Naturally, he would only do this to people he was close to. Evidently, he had already treated Luo Huan as his own kin. Okay. Luo Huan giggled. Ever since she first met Qin Wentian, it had already been 8 months. She watched as Qin Wentian gradually matured, shedding away the immaturity that he once had. Experience would allow him to slowly transform. "I also want to temper my movement technique." Fatty pitifully stared at Luo Huan. "With that body of yours?" Luo Huan disdainfully glanced at Fatty. Fatty's countenance instantly collapsed. This was too much bullying. In Luo Huan's residence, on a piece of empty land, Fatty sat at the side while Little Rascal squatted beside him, its eyes staring straight ahead. In front of them, Luo Huan's long whip transformed into countless whip shadows that filled the sky, lashing out in a frenzy. As for Qin Wentian, his footwork had also reached the pinnacle of perfection. Just by looking at his footwork, one would feel a sense of profoundness. In that empty space, only his afterimage could be seen. This fellow's cultivation base has already reached the 5th level of arterial circulation, and his movement technique is also so powerful. Fatty's eyes shone. It seemed like Qin Wentian's hard work these few days had not been in vain. Back then, he had despised Qin Wentian for having a low cultivation base. Now, he had been left behind, and was only at the peak of the 4th level of arterial circulation. Ping! A crisp sound rang out. Qin Wentian's body was coiled around by the long whip as his robes were torn apart. Stabilizing his body, he bitterly smiled, "Senior sister, there's no need to be so ruthless. If I'm not serious, how can you feel the pressure?" Luo Huan giggled, and before the sound of her voice faded, another illusory whip swept past. Qin Wentian's steps faltered, and the long whip whistled past his body, causing him to be speechless. He could only focus and use all his strength to evade. The feeling of being hit by a long whip wasn't so pleasant. After half a day, Qin Wentian's entire body was drenched in sweat. His robes were torn apart, and traces of blood seeped out. Fatty's heart trembled as he silently swore that he wouldn't do something as foolish as Qin Wentian. "Okay, take a rest. How do you feel?" Luo Huan giggled as she looked at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian walked towards Luo Huan, only to see her perspiration dripping down her body. Her hair was wet, and her voluptuous figure was illuminated by the perspiration, with her breasts faintly discernible. Looking at this alluring scene, Qin Wentian had the urge to have a nosebleed. "Senior sister, you are so beautiful." Qin Wentian laughed, causing Luo Huan to freeze. Staring at the silhouette in front of her, she laughed, "Good brat, you actually dare to tease your senior sister." "I'm just speaking the truth." Qin Wentian shrugged his shoulders. "Okay, let's continue." Luo Huan's eyes flashed with a brilliant light as she giggled, causing Qin Wentian to shiver. The two of them continued. Under Luo Huan's oppressive guidance, Qin Wentian's movement technique improved every day. Finally, on the 5th day, his Garuda movement technique stepped into the perfect grade. He was only left with the final step, the divine movement realm. However, if he wanted to reach the divine movement realm, he would still need to hunt more demonic beasts. After stepping into the perfect grade movement technique, even Luo Huan had to be a little more serious in order to hit Qin Wentian. That perfect grade movement technique, as well as his lightning-fast movements, caused her to be extremely shocked. She also gained a new understanding of the extremely difficult to cultivate Garuda movement technique. In the City of Illusions, Mu Rou had just finished a battle. Unknowingly, she returned to that familiar place. Staring at the empty stone platform, she felt a tinge of disappointment in her heart. That fellow actually didn't appear again. Mu Rou's beautiful eyes flickered. Ever since she removed her mask, that Qilin-masked man had never appeared again. Initially, she wanted to thank him, but she didn't even have the chance to do so. Maybe it was because of the habit she had developed during that period of time. Mu Rou still wanted to come here and spar with that Qilin-masked man, tempering her movement technique. Sadly, she didn't know when he would appear again. "Miss Mu, are you thinking of love again?" At this moment, a lovable laughter drifted over. Mu Rou turned and glared at the phoenix-masked woman. "I only wanted to thank him in person. How could it be as dirty as you make it out to be?" "Is that so? Then why do you still come here every day?" Chu Ling asked suspiciously. "I'm just trying my luck. These few days, my movement technique has improved again, so I wanted to spar with him." Mu Rou's voice was soft and gentle. "Okay, let's go out. There are still 2 days left. The third prince will be inviting Qin Yao to a banquet. At that time, let's go together." Chu Ling spoke as the two of them turned and prepared to depart. The third prince's personality has always been domineering. I heard that he was one of the reasons why he acted against the Qin clan back then. He's an extremely decisive person. Why would he invite Qin Yao to a banquet this time around? Mu Rou curiously asked. She had naturally heard of the personalities of the princes of the royal clan. The third prince was young, and had outstanding talent. Not only that, he was also extremely intelligent. The reason why Qin Yao came here today was because of Qin Wu and Qin Chuan. According to the third prince's personality, he definitely wouldn't care about the attitude of the Snow Cloud country. Not only that, the third prince's personality was the most similar to the emperor when he was young. In addition to his talent in cultivation, he was highly regarded by the emperor. Now that the emperor was already old, he had already started to pave the way for the third prince to ascend the throne. How can we guess the thoughts of third brother? However, if Qin Yao wants to save Qin Wu and Qin Chuan, it's undoubtedly the ravings of a lunatic. I'm afraid that she would be humiliated by third brother. Chu Ling coldly snorted. This time around, third brother invited many people, including Mo Qincheng. I'm afraid that he wants to express his stance and attitude. Chu Ling was a princess, the daughter of a king. Based on their relationship, she could refer to the third prince as her elder brother. Yanaro will definitely go as well. Mu Rou gloomily replied. He should be there, but Yanaro wouldn't dare to be arrogant there. Chu Ling consoled. However, there's something very infuriating. Someone actually asked me to bring a person to the banquet. Who? Mu Rou asked. Emperor Star Academy, Qin Wentian, someone from the Qin clan. Chu Ling disdainfully replied, it said that this person's talent isn't bad, and his character is extremely arrogant. He even killed Orkan's younger brother, Orphan, and doesn't know when to back off. Now, in order to see Qin Yao, he didn't hesitate to find someone to help him find me. Qin Wentian. Mu Rou had heard this name a few times before. Smiling, she continued, he and Qin Yao are brother and sister, what's the point of trying to curry favor with her? Not only that, since it's your friend who asked you to help, you should be calm and not make things difficult for others. If not, wouldn't you be making things difficult for your friend? Humph, Chu Ling curled her lips. Since she heard that her friend was also asked to help by someone else, she didn't really care. Chapter 76. 2 days later, Qin Wentian arrived at the entrance of a manor. The person who sent him here had already left after sending him here. This manor was located in the 5th district of the royal capital. The people who lived in this district were all nobles and aristocrats. Inclining his head, he could see a huge signboard with the words, Violet King's Manor, engraved on it. Violet King's Manor? Qin Wentian was somewhat familiar with this name. Abruptly, his eyes narrowed as he recalled that during Bai Qingsong's birthday celebration, the Violet King's Manor was one of the many transcendent powers in the royal capital. The Violet King's Manor sent people to Sky Harmony City to celebrate Bai Qingsong's birthday. Evidently, it was because of the Yi clan. Although the Yi clan was powerful, for a majestic king to have fallen to such a state, I'm afraid that they're not a king's manor. Qin Wentian silently speculated in his heart. What a coincidence. Asking for help, he'd actually ended up in the Violet King's Manor. Qin Wentian didn't know how the Bai clan was doing. That hypocrite Bai Qingsong had left a deep impression on him. His foster father had only agreed to the marriage because the ancestor of the Bai clan had some ties with Qin Wu. Qin Wentian had also treated the Bai clan with sincerity, but he wasn't as vicious as the Bai clan. In the end, he'd even helped the Yi clan to annihilate the Qin clan. If it was merely the expulsion of him from the Qin clan, he could still endure it. But the Bai clan had participated in the annihilation of the Qin clan. This matter would never be forgotten by Qin Wentian. Autumn Snow, she's also in the Royal Academy, right? Qin Wentian mused. From within the Violet King's manor, a few silhouettes walked out. Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed as he gazed in their direction. This woman was actually someone he had met in the Dream Sky Forest. During those days, he had often fought with this woman to train his movement skills, which had helped him a lot. On the last day, another woman appeared, who seemed to be quite willful and had the temperament of a young lady. She was none other than this woman. Although Qin Wentian recognized Chu Ling didn't recognize him. Walking to Qin Wentian's side, she coldly asked, "Are you Qin Wentian?" "Yes." Qin Wentian nodded. "Wear this and you'll be my guard. Since I've promised someone else, I'll bring you in. However, don't give me any trouble." Chu Ling said. Qin Wentian's identity was a little sensitive. The Yi clan and the O clan weren't very friendly to him. If others knew that she had helped Qin Wentian, it wouldn't be good. "All right." Qin Wentian put on the guard's uniform. Chu Ling seemed to be a little cold towards him, but this was also what he wanted. He didn't want to have anything to do with her. "You guys follow behind, let's go." Chu Ling mounted her horse and galloped away. Qin Wentian and the other two guards followed closely behind, their speed was extremely fast. After a few hours, Qin Wentian discovered that Chu Ling had already brought him into the royal palace. However, they were on the left side of the royal palace, arriving at a gigantic manor. This manor had mountains and rivers, and the area it occupied was unfathomably vast. In fact, Qin Wentian could even sense traces of demonic qi emanating from it. Half of the imperial city is surrounded by the dark forest, including the imperial palace. There's demonic qi in this place, and it's connected to the imperial palace. It should be the dark forest outside the imperial palace. To think that there's actually a manor here, how luxurious. Qin Wentian gazed ahead. He could see several luxurious villas in the distance. It was a resting place in the middle of the dark forest. Only the members of the major clans would be able to afford such a luxurious manor. This is the Imperial Palace's hunting ground, it extends all the way to the depths of the dark forest. Follow closely. Otherwise, don't blame me if you get swallowed by demonic beasts. Chu Ling shouted as she rode on her horse. She didn't even turn her head as she galloped forward, ignoring the guards and Qin Wentian behind her. Indeed, she has the temperament of a young miss. Qin Wentian silently mused as he increased his speed. This hunting ground of the imperial palace was so vast, he would only be able to see Qin Yao when the banquet started. Mu Rou. At this moment, Chu Ling heard a few silhouettes calling out to her. Those people were all mounted on white horses, and when they heard the voice, they slowed down. The female knight in the lead turned around and smiled. "Chu Ling, you've arrived as well. Seems like we're all early." Chu Ling laughed. Behind Mu Rou, there were also two guards. However, her guards were all mounted on white horses. From this, one could tell that Mu Rou and Chu Ling had different styles of doing things. For aristocrats like Chu Ling, her guards were all extremely powerful wuxiu. Their duty was to ensure the safety of their masters, and at the same time, enjoy the cultivation resources provided by their masters. Their statuses were extremely low, and only guards with outstanding strength would be valued. But even so, they still didn't have much freedom. Hence, those with true talent wouldn't be willing to become the guards of others. At the very least, they would want to be guests. Qin Wentian was astonished to see Mu Rou. This girl was the one he sparred with many times in the City of Illusions. He didn't expect to meet her here as well. Mu Rou seemed to have sensed something as her beautiful eyes shifted in the direction of Qin Wentian. As though she knew who Qin Wentian was, she lightly nodded her head, causing Qin Wentian to be stunned. Mu Rou shouldn't know him. Qin Wentian didn't know that Chu Ling had mentioned to Mu Rou that she would bring him here. Hence, Mu Rou guessed that he was Qin Wentian. However, she naturally wouldn't know that he was the man wearing the Kirin mask from the City of Illusions. Let's go. Chu Ling furrowed her brows when she saw Mu Rou noticing Qin Wentian. She swept a glance at Qin Wentian. She didn't want others to know that she was helping Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's senses were extremely sharp. How could he not sense Chu Ling's obvious attitude? When I see Sister Qin Yao, I will no longer have anything to do with her. Qin Wentian sighed. He didn't like Chu Ling's character. Since she had promised her friend to bring him here, why did she have to look down on him? If she was afraid of implicating him, she wouldn't have agreed to her friend's request. At the same time, in the royal hunting grounds located at the border between the Dark Forest and the Imperial Palace, many nobles had arrived. The third prince was still young. Hence, the people he invited were naturally not from the older generation. Instead, they were all young nobles. The Yi clan's disciples had also arrived. Yi Zhan from the Royal Academy had also arrived at the royal hunting grounds. Other than his guards, he also brought along 2 people. Lu Yen, this is the royal hunting grounds. The disciples of the royal clan like to start their hunt here in the Dark Forest, tempering their strength. Yi Zhan smiled at the girl beside him. This girl was actually Lu Yen. Beside her, her elder brother Lu Yu was present as well. Back then, Yi Zhan, Orphan and the rest were pursuing Qin Wentian and Fan Lu. Yi Zhan halted his steps when he saw Lu Yen. That was the day he got to know Lu Yen, and after that, he began to pursue her. Initially, because of Qin Wentian, Lu Yen was somewhat conflicted. However, Yi Zhan truly treated her very well, and in addition to Lu Yu's constant persuasion, she gradually accepted Yi Zhan. After all, what Lu Yu said was the truth. In this vast Chu country, there were many people with outstanding talent that surpassed them. They didn't have any backing, nor did they have any resources. How could they compare to others? Sooner or later, they would end up like their friends, dying a silent death while hunting demonic beasts. Too imposing, as expected of the royal hunting grounds of the Chu country. Lu Yu, who was at the side, continued, Yi Zhan, if it wasn't for you, Lu Yen and I wouldn't even have the qualifications to enter this place. Big brother, we are brothers, there's no need to be so polite. Yi Zhan's smile was gentle, and in addition to his handsome countenance, it caused people to feel extremely comfortable. Haha, that's right. From now on, we are brothers. Lu Yu laughed uproariously, appearing extremely carefree. Even before the sound of Lu Yu's voice faded, his gaze abruptly froze as he stared ahead, only to see a dreamlike beauty appearing there. Yi Zhan followed Lu Yu's gaze as his eyes narrowed. The number 1 beauty of Chu, Mo Qingqing. Mo Qingqing is here as well. Lu Yu murmured. He had only seen Mo Qingqing once during the 9 Great Martial Academy's refinement grounds, and it was already hard for him to forget her. This woman was simply too breathtaking. However, he was also clear of his own status. It was impossible for him to have any interactions with Mo Qingqing. He could only fantasize about her in his heart. The number 1 beauty of Chu, she is indeed very beautiful. Lu Yen herself was also a beauty, but when she saw Mo Qingqing, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. It was as though when she stood in front of Mo Qingqing, she was inexplicably weaker than her. Other than Mo Qingqing, her friend Nolan was present as well. The 2 of them also saw the group of people here, but they quickly turned and walked away. That woman actually got together with Yi Zhan. I wonder if that brat Qin Wentian would be angered to death if he knew about this. Even now, that fellow still thinks that it was that woman who saved him, Nolan whispered. Mo Qingqing's beautiful countenance stiffened upon hearing her words. After which, she added in a low voice, I still owe him an apology. Why are you so stubborn? No matter what, you saved him once, and even carried him on your back, giving him a high-grade 2nd-level medicinal pill. So what if you misunderstood him? Let's just say that we're even. Nolan rolled her eyes at Mo Qingqing. But the situation that day, he must have been in despair. Mo Qingqing sighed. Thinking back to that day when Qin Wentian carried Fan Lo on his back, she couldn't help but blame herself. Chapter 77. Chu Ling and Mu Rou rode on their horses, bringing Qin Wentian and the rest to a vast grassy field. In front of them, there was an entrance that was actually guarded by armored soldiers. This should be the royal garden of the hunting grounds. Qin Wentian gazed at the entrance. The structure was tall and majestic, exuding an aura of elegance and uniqueness. Not only that, it was extremely spacious. The descendants of the royal clan loved to stay here, as they entered the dark forest to hunt. His Highness the Third Prince and the esteemed guests from Snowcloud have yet to arrive. Please wait here and rest. A soldier walked up, as he spoke to Chu Ling and Mu Rou. The two of them dismounted their horses and waited outside. They both knew that there were other entrances to the royal garden. What a big face the Snowcloud country has. Chu Ling unhappily replied. After all, they are our guests. Let's just wait patiently. Mu Rou shook her head with a smile. At this moment, more and more people arrived, and all of them greeted Chu Ling and Mu Rou. Evidently, the majority of them were acquainted with each other. Although they weren't very familiar with each other, on the surface, they appeared to be in harmony. Chu Ling, at this moment, a voice drifted over. Chu Ling turned her gaze over, and upon seeing the person who spoke, she couldn't help but smile. Yi Zhan, you're here as well. Yeah, I'm here. Yi Zhan smiled and nodded his head. After which, he shifted his gaze onto Qin Wentian, who was standing behind Chu Ling. Qin Wentian's eyes were ice cold, and flashed with killing intent. Evidently, Qin Wentian had recognized Yi Zhan. This was the person who had hunted him together with Orphan. Yi Zhan's countenance froze for a moment before he recovered, as a light smile appeared on his face. Qin Wentian. Yi Zhan spat out. Immediately, several people turned their gazes towards Qin Wentian, and very quickly, they recalled this name. After the Qin clan, a celebrity from the Emperor Star Academy who killed Orphan from the O clan. Chu Ling's expression stiffened. This Yi Zhan was acquainted with Qin Wentian. Not only that, he even called out Qin Wentian's name in such a loud voice. This caused her to be in a difficult position. However, the Yi clan's influence was so great that even her Violet Palace couldn't compare to it. However, when Qin Wentian saw Lu Yan and Lu Yu standing beside Yi Zhan, he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable in his heart. Back then in the dark forest, Yi Zhan and Orphan had chased after him and Fan Lo. At that time, they had coincidentally saved Lu Yan. In order to prevent trouble from befalling Lu Yan, Qin Wentian had even instructed Lu Yan not to reveal that she was acquainted with him. However, Qin Wentian had never expected that Lu Yan would be together with Yi Zhan. Furthermore, their relationship seemed to be quite intimate. Yi Zhan seemed to have noticed Qin Wentian's gaze. Smiling, he pulled on Lu Yan's hand as he asked, Yan, you should be acquainted with him long ago, right? Lu Yan's countenance was filled with awkwardness. After all, she knew that Yi Zhan had chased after Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian had saved her and Lu Yu. From the bottom of her heart, she had a favorable impression of Qin Wentian. Lu Yan lightly nodded her head, as she smiled at Qin Wentian. Thank you for the matter back then. No need, just treat it as me returning the favor. Qin Wentian's countenance was calm. Everyone had their own ambitions, and Lu Yan had the right to choose. However, Lu Yan had chosen Yi Zhan, who wanted to kill him. This caused him to be in a difficult position. How should he treat Yi Zhan? Even now, Qin Wentian still believed that Lu Yan had saved him back then. He. Yi Zhan's smile was filled with coldness. He looked at Chu Ling and continued, Chu Ling, Qin Wentian is a descendant of the traitorous Qin clan. Not only that, he had killed Yi Mo and Yi Lang of the Yi clan. Don't tell me you don't know this. This bastard. Chu Ling cursed in her heart. I didn't know that he was Qin Wentian, he was merely my bodyguard. Bodyguard? So that's how it is. Yi Zhan's countenance was calm. He turned around and looked at Qin Wentian as he laughed, so it turns out that you're willing to be someone else's servant. You've really gained face for the Qin clan. For the sake of Sister Yao, I'll temporarily tolerate her. Qin Wentian thought. He didn't expect Chu Ling to have such a character. Yi Zhan guessed that the reason Qin Wentian came here today was because of Qin Yao. However, he couldn't help but coldly laugh in his heart. As a descendant of the Yi clan, he naturally knew some insider information about today's banquet. Now that Qin Wentian had delivered himself to his doorstep, how laughable. Holding on to Lu Yan's hand, Yi Zhan walked away with a faint smile on his face. In an instant, Chu Ling became the focal point of the crowd. Qin Wentian, you should go back. This place isn't suitable for you. Feeling the gazes of the crowd, Chu Ling involuntarily turned to Qin Wentian and said, I will explain this matter to my friend. I don't wish to help you anymore. Chu Ling's voice wasn't loud, but the crowd could still hear her clearly. Evidently, Chu Ling was entrusted by someone to bring Qin Wentian here. A student of the Emperor Star Academy doesn't even have the qualifications to enter this circle. This is the difference in status. Lu Yu was also paying attention to Qin Wentian, as he sighed in his heart. Ever since he stepped into the royal capital, he had already deeply felt that life here was different from before. Here, there were many nobles and aristocrats, and the weak were prey to the strong. The Yi clan is the true trump card. Lu Yu silently mused. After which, he whispered to Lu Yan, although this Qin Wentian is interested in you, you have to draw a clear line between yourself and him. I know what to do. Lu Yan froze for a moment before lightly nodding her head. As for Qin Wentian, when he heard Chu Ling's words, his expression couldn't help but stiffen. Staring at Chu Ling, he suddenly felt that it was ridiculous. Since he had already agreed to help, and they were already here, why did Chu Ling say that she wouldn't bring him in? What a joke. Farewell. Qin Wentian laughed. It wasn't that he didn't have a temper, but because he wanted to see Qin Yao, he endured it. Who would have thought that Chu Ling would say such a thing to him? What's with your attitude? Chu Ling coldly snorted. Back then, if you didn't agree to help others, it would have been fine. But since you've already agreed, why are you scolding me like this? Do you really treat me like a slave? Who do you think you are? Qin Wentian coldly glanced at Chu Ling before flicking his sleeves and leaving. His speed was extremely fast, and his movement technique was extremely exquisite. Since Chu Ling didn't want to help him, there was no way he could beg her. He could only think of another way himself. MHM. At this moment, Mu Rou noticed Qin Wentian's movement technique. Her beautiful eyes froze as her heart pounded. She was extremely familiar with this movement technique. Mu Rou had fought against Qin Wentian many times in the dark forest. She was extremely familiar with this movement technique. Now that she thought about it, Qin Wentian's stature was somewhat similar to Qin Wentian's. It's him. Mu Rou's heart trembled. Wait. Mu Rou spoke, causing Qin Wentian to halt his steps as he turned his head to look at her. Follow me in. Mu Rou smiled at Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to be puzzled. We are friends, aren't we? I'm bringing a friend to the banquet, there won't be any problems. Mu Rou smiled sweetly. Although Qin Wentian was puzzled, he understood that Mu Rou wanted to help him. Hence, he didn't argue and replied, many thanks. Mu Rou. Chu Ling unhappily stared at Mu Rou. Wasn't Qin Wentian going against her? Chu Ling, I won't interfere in what you do. Right now, I'm bringing him in not because of you, but because of myself. Mu Rou spoke to Chu Ling, hoping that Chu Ling would understand that Qin Wentian wasn't targeting her. Is that so? Why do I feel that you're doing this on purpose? Chu Ling was extremely unhappy. Mu Rou, I treated you as a friend. Who would have thought that you would do such a thing? You've really disappointed me. After speaking, Chu Ling turned and left. Chu Ling, Mu Rou still wanted to explain, but Chu Ling continued, there's no need to say anything more. In the future, let's go our separate ways. Just pretend that I don't have a friend like you. Mu Rou's countenance stiffened. She turned and saw Qin Wentian walking over. A smile appeared on her face, but this smile was filled with bitterness. Chu Ling is such a person, don't blame her. Mu Rou spoke to Qin Wentian. After which, she murmured, 2 days later, her anger towards me should dissipate. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. For someone who could go back on a promise to a friend, their character could be seen clearly. Mu Rou had overestimated Chu Ling, but from this, it could be seen that Mu Rou had a kind heart. Chu Ling was a total stranger to him, yet she directly brought him in as a friend. She wasn't afraid of offending anyone. Compared to Mu Rou, Chu Ling seemed much more hypocritical. At this moment, someone from the manor came to welcome them. After which, the guards allowed them to enter. Let's go. Mu Rou smiled at Qin Wentian, but she didn't expose Qin Wentian. In her heart, she was extremely astonished. The person who could contend against Yanaro was actually the new student of the Emperor Star Academy, Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian followed behind Mu Rou. They were led to a lush green grassland, with rivers on both sides. On this grassland, a banquet had already been prepared. However, as the third prince had yet to arrive, no one took their seats. From afar, in a pavilion, a group of silhouettes walked out. The person in the lead was a young man dressed simply and cleanly. He had a well-proportioned physique, black hair draped over his shoulders, and a pair of eyes that were filled with vigor. He was actually a handsome man. This handsome young man had a smile in his eyes, yet it was as though there was a divine light in them. His aura was extraordinary. Beside him, a young man dressed in white stood. Qin Wentian was actually able to recognize him. This young man was none other than the demon-level genius of the Emperor Star Academy, Luo Qinxiu. The two of them walked shoulder to shoulder, as though they were of equal status. After the two of them exited the pavilion, they halted their steps. The handsome young man smiled as he looked behind him, as though he was welcoming an esteemed guest. After which, a group of silhouettes walked out, and the person in the lead was none other than Qin Yao. His Highness, the third prince, has arrived. The third prince's demeanor is still as outstanding as ever. No wonder he's a heaven's chosen. Smiles could be seen on the faces of the crowd, as they couldn't help but to praise the young man. The third prince, Chu Tianjiao, was also known as Heaven's Chosen. He had the highest possibility of inheriting the throne of the Chu country, and was highly regarded by the emperor. Not only that, his talent was extremely outstanding, and he was ranked number 2 among the 10 prodigies. Chu Tianjiao, a Heaven's Chosen. Chapter 78. The first time Qin Wentian saw Chu Tianjiao, he already felt that this person was a dragon among men. Who would have thought that the third son of the emperor was actually such a young and handsome character? Everyone, please take your seats, there's no need to feel restrained. Chu Tianjiao slowly walked over, smiling at the crowd. First, he invited Qin Yao and the rest to take their seats, before he himself sat down, and the rest of the crowd followed suit. Today, the people I've invited are all outstanding youths of the same generation. This way, there will be more topics to talk about. Chu Tianjiao laughed heartily. Let me introduce everyone. This is Qin Yao from Snowcloud Country, and to my left, is my good friend Luo Qinxiu. I'm sure many of you have heard of him before. Mu Rou's seat was some distance away from the host's seat, while Qin Wentian sat below her. His gaze was fixated on Qin Yao, and Qin Yao also noticed him. However, Qin Yao's eyes were filled with hidden bitterness, as though she was blaming him for his actions. Previously, Qin Yao intentionally avoided meeting with Qin Wentian because she didn't want Qin Wentian to be implicated in the matter of the Qin clan. Who would have thought that this fellow would actually come looking for her? Qin Wentian seemed to have understood Qin Yao's intentions, as he sighed in his heart, Sister Yao didn't want to implicate me in this matter. This was also the intention of second and third uncle back then. I naturally understand this point, but seeing that she came to Chu, how can I sit back and do nothing? I have to get to the bottom of this matter. How can you not know the genius of the Emperor Star Academy, Luo Qinqiu? A clear voice drifted over, as a few silhouettes walked over from afar. The person in the lead clasped his hands towards Chu Tianjiao, as he smiled, Yanaro is late by a step, please forgive me, Your Highness. Yanaro, quickly come and take a seat. Chu Tianjiao didn't have the slightest bit of the domineering air of someone with a high status. Instead, he appeared amiable and approachable, as he spoke to Yanaro, you and Qianqiu are both geniuses of the Emperor Star Academy. There are so many geniuses in the Emperor Star Academy, but there's one who's currently in the limelight. He has young Lord Luo's blood ember fruits in his eyes, and is incomparably arrogant. Yanaro smiled, as he walked to the side of Qin Wentian. Turning his gaze onto Qin Wentian, he laughed, Qin Wentian, am I right? Luo Qianqiu's gaze also shifted in the direction of Qin Wentian, as though he didn't care. Luo Qianqiu also shifted his gaze towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian and him were people from two completely different worlds. He still remembered that if it wasn't for the Green Cloud Alliance's leader, Ling Hua, appearing previously, he would have already killed Qin Wentian. But now, the past was the past. Since he spared Qin Wentian, he no longer cared about Qin Wentian's life or death. Qin Wentian shifted his gaze onto Yanaro. Just like what Luo Huan had guessed, he met many people he didn't want to see here. But since he chose to come, he had no complaints. It seems that you shouldn't be here. Seeing that Qin Wentian didn't reply, Yanaro indifferently added. He came here with the identity of a servant. Yi Zhan smiled, causing Yanaro to nod his head. He then shifted his gaze onto Mu Rou, who was seated beside Qin Wentian, as he laughed, Mu Rou, why are you sitting together with him? He's my friend. Mu Rou smiled at Yanaro, naturally, my friend would be sitting together with me. Friend? This person killed Yi Lang and Orphan. Mu Rou, are you sure he's your friend? Yanaro's smile was gentle, yet it caused Mu Rou's countenance to turn extremely unsightly. Yanaro's words were too vicious. If she continued to insist, she would undoubtedly offend both the Yi and O clans. Mu Rou's countenance fluctuated violently as she replied, a friend is a friend. Regardless of his identity, this matter concerns me alone. What if I tell you that Mu Yi died in his hands? Yi Zhan coldly laughed, causing Mu Rou's eyes to tremble as she stared at Qin Wentian. Back then in the dark forest, Orphan brought a beast tamer to hunt me down. I killed him. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly when he saw Mu Rou looking at him. Mu Yi was killed by Fan Lu, so there was no difference from him killing Mu Yi. Since he had already done it, he would admit it. However, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The only girl who was willing to speak up for him was actually Mu Ye's family. Since that's the case, Mu Yi can only blame himself for being inferior. Mu Rou silently sighed. Although her relationship with Mu Yi wasn't that harmonious, they were after all from the same clan. With regards to this matter, she couldn't help but feel uncomfortable in her heart. But even if that's the case, what does this have to do with me making friends? All of a sudden, Mu Rou smiled. This is just a personal friendship of mine, it has nothing to do with my clan. Hee hee. Yanaro coldly laughed as he found a seat and sat down. Qin Wentian clenched his fists tightly. He was already close to 17 years of age, and had experienced many things in the past half a year. Compared to the past, he was no longer as impulsive as before. However, the current situation still caused him to feel extremely depressed. Smiling, he poured himself a cup of wine and toasted Mu Rou. If there's a chance, I will definitely repay this favor in the future. Qin Wentian gulped down the wine in his cup, as he swept his gaze over the crowd. The people here were all nobles and aristocrats, who would have the qualifications to interact with him. Involuntarily, his gaze landed on Lu Yen. However, Qin Wentian discovered that Lu Yen was intentionally avoiding his gaze. Seeing this, how could Qin Wentian not be moved? However, when Qin Wentian saw this, he merely laughed it off. Qin Wentian. Lu Yen abruptly spoke. Raising her cup, she faced Qin Wentian and said, "Thank you very much for the matter in the dark forest. In the future, if you ever need my help, there's no need to say anything more." Qin Wentian interrupted the other party's words. He similarly raised his cup and drained it in a single gulp. Everyone has their own ambitions. I don't have the qualifications to criticize your life, but I also won't ask for your help. From now on, we are strangers. Lu Yen still wanted to speak, but Lu Yu spoke first, that would be for the best. Qin Wentian swept a glance at Lu Yu, as a sharp glint of light flickered in his eyes. He already knew that Lu Yu was a despicable person, but he couldn't be bothered to be calculative. In the future, they wouldn't have any interactions. Standing up, Qin Wentian walked to the center of the crowd, looking at Chu Tianjiao. He was very clear that other than the Yi clan, there was also this heaven's chosen in front of him. Your Highness, I'm here today to see my sister. Can you allow me to speak a few words with her? Qin Wentian bluntly asked. Chu Tianjiao's countenance didn't change in the slightest. He smiled and nodded his head, if she has no objections, I naturally won't interfere. Many thanks, Your Highness. Qin Wentian spoke as he walked towards Qin Yao. After he was out of the crowd, he turned his head back and said to Qin Yao, "Follow me." Upon hearing Qin Wentian's stern voice, Qin Yao actually had a look of grievance on her face. She stood up and followed after Qin Wentian. This scene was truly laughable. Why did it feel as though Qin Wentian was treating her like an elder? Qin Wentian walked to a place far away, before turning back. Seeing Qin Yao walking over, he couldn't help but ask, "What's going on?" "You rascal, I'm your sister." Qin Yao glared at Qin Wentian, unconvinced. "You still know." Qin Wentian took a step forward, his hands cupping Qin Yao's cheeks. His gaze was much gentler than before. "Sister, what's going on? Why did you become one of the candidates for the Crown Prince's wife? Was it of your own will, or was it forced by the Crown Prince?" "Wentian, you don't have to care about this matter. Just focus on cultivating in the Emperor Star Academy. Don't worry about the matters of the outside world." Qin Yao's heart melted as she saw the gentleness in Qin Wentian's eyes. Her voice contained hints of pleading, as she didn't want Qin Wentian to be involved in the matters of the Qin clan. Back in Snowcloud, she had always been inquiring about news regarding Qin Wentian. She knew that Qin Wentian was highly regarded by the Emperor Star Academy and had a bright future ahead of him. Qin Yao didn't want him to be implicated. "How can I not care about your matters? If you are willing, then the Crown Prince of Snowcloud has to let me see if he's qualified. If not, as long as I, Qin Wentian, am still alive, I will not allow anyone to force you." Qin Wentian's gaze was filled with determination. This was his promise to Qin Yao. They had depended on each other for many years, and their relationship had long surpassed that of siblings. In fact, there were many times when he was more like an elder brother. How could he allow Qin Yao to suffer any grievances? Qin Yao stared at Qin Wentian as she spoke in a low voice, "When I was cultivating in the Snowcloud Academy, I got to know the Crown Prince of Snowcloud. He treated me very well, and even sent people to protect my safety. He was also willing to help me save my grandfather and father. Hence, I promised him that if I could really save my grandfather and father, I would become his woman. Sister, why are you so silly? Qin Wentian sighed. It seemed like Qin Yao was purely sacrificing herself for the sake of her father and grandfather, hoping to borrow the strength of Snowcloud. Second uncle's side has already reached a stalemate. As long as Chu mobilizes their troops, they will be defeated sooner or later. I can't afford to wait. Qin Yao's heart was filled with an uneasy feeling. In that case, why did you come to Chu? Qin Wentian asked. I wish to meet with my grandfather and father first, and see if I can negotiate with them. However, the attitude of Chu is unclear, and this is the first time I've seen the third prince. Qin Yao replied. Miss Qin. At this moment, a few silhouettes walked over from afar. They were none other than Qin Yao's bodyguards. Their gazes were fixed on Qin Wentian, and their countenances were extremely sharp, causing Qin Wentian to furrow his brows. Wentian, let's return first. There's no need to care about this matter anymore. Qin Yao lowered her head as she spoke, causing Qin Wentian to feel a sense of heaviness in his heart. I'm afraid this matter isn't so simple. Qin Wentian silently mused. After which, the two of them returned to their seats, only to discover that several people were currently discussing them. However, Qin Wentian didn't mind. Just when he was about to leave, two silhouettes walked over from afar. In an instant, the gazes of the crowd all shifted in that direction. Because, there was a beautiful silhouette that was too dazzling. The instant she appeared, it was as though everything in the surroundings had lost their luster. Only she was the main character. Those scions from the aristocratic clans all forgot their elegance as their gazes were fixated on that silhouette. It was as though every step she took could affect the hearts of the people. Where is she going? The hearts of the crowd involuntarily pounded as they saw Mo Qingqing walking towards the direction of the crowd. How beautiful! Lu Yen noticed that Yi Zhan and Lu Yu were both in a daze, as a faint sense of disappointment appeared in her heart. Chapter 79. The person who had just arrived was none other than the number one beauty in Chu, Mo Qingqing. Mo Qingqing slowly walked forward, as the gazes of the crowd followed her footsteps. However, very quickly, their countenances froze. Mo Qingqing seemed to be moving in the direction of Mu Rou. Mu Rou and Mo Qingqing shouldn't have any relationship, right? The hearts of the crowd mused. Not long after, Mo Qingqing stood in front of Mu Rou. Staring at her back, the crowd had expressions of bewilderment on their faces. However, Qin Wentian discovered that Mo Qingqing's gaze was actually on him. Casting a glance to his left and right, Qin Wentian discovered that he was the only one beside him. Qin Wentian. Mo Qingqing called out in a low voice. As the sound of her voice faded, the pupils of the crowd all narrowed. Qin Wentian. Mo Qingqing was here to look for Qin Wentian. They couldn't help but suspect if they had heard wrongly. It was said that Qin Wentian came to attend this banquet as Chu Ling's servant. Earlier, they were still talking about him. What's the matter? Qin Wentian inclined his head, and the instant he saw that silhouette, his heart involuntarily palpitated. A countenance that could topple empires, an absolute beauty shyly standing there, her eyes like limpid autumn waters. This scene was simply too beautiful. He naturally recognized her. For a woman like Mo Qingqing, no matter who saw her, they would never be able to forget her. I have a matter to discuss with you. Can you come with me? Mo Qingqing softly spoke, causing the gazes of the crowd to freeze. They hadn't heard wrongly, Mo Qingqing actually invited Qin Wentian to be alone with her. In their memories, in the royal capital of Chu, there had never been a man who received such treatment. Sure. Qin Wentian directly agreed. He originally didn't want to stay here any longer, so he stood up and left the banquet. Mo Qingqing nodded her head lightly to Chu Tianjiao, and didn't even bother to glance at the others as she left together with Qin Wentian. Staring at the back of the two of them, the entire banquet hall was incomparably silent. Many people stared at Qin Wentian, their eyes gleaming with a cold light. Qin Wentian. Lu Yu's expression was ice-cold. Clearly, he was jealous. Beside him, Lu Yan's expression was exceptionally interesting. However, Mo Qingcheng and Qin Wentian obviously didn't know what they were thinking. The two of them walked to a grassy area far away. Mo Qingcheng slowly turned and looked at Qin Wentian. "I'm sorry about that day." Mo Qingcheng lowered her head as she apologetically replied. Looking at her expression, Qin Wentian found it extremely hard to blame her. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart, femme fatale. Luckily, his mental fortitude was extremely tough. If it was an ordinary youth facing such a situation, they would definitely find it hard to maintain their composure. "We don't even know each other. Why are you apologizing to me?" Although Qin Wentian's heart was in turmoil, he still remained calm and replied. "So you're still blaming me? However, I didn't know that you were Qin Wentian that day. That's why I misunderstood when I saw you chasing after Orphan." Mo Qingcheng's watery eyes stared at Qin Wentian with a hint of grievance in them. This kind of gaze was enough to melt the hearts of those who saw it. At this moment, Nolan, who was standing at the side, was completely dumbfounded. Heavens, when did the great beauty Mo Qingcheng have such a feminine side? Nolan rubbed his eyes, thinking that his eyes were playing tricks on him. "Forget it, it's not a big deal anyway." Qin Wentian bitterly smiled as he shook his head. He didn't even dare to look Mo Qingcheng in the eye. He couldn't stand the look in her eyes. He was originally an open-minded person, and wouldn't haggle over minor matters. That day, he and Fan Lo were indeed too angry. But now that he thought about it, Mo Qingcheng's misunderstanding back then was only normal. Not only that, when Orkan threatened to kill them, Mo Qingcheng had also told them to leave. However, the Mo Qingcheng now, compared to the Mo Qingcheng from that day, was too far apart. She gave off a surreal feeling. Qin Wentian didn't believe that Mo Qingcheng had fallen in love with him at first sight, nor did he know why. "That's good." Mo Qingcheng gently smiled. "Are you also here to participate in the banquet hosted by the third prince?" Qin Wentian suddenly asked. He did invite me, but I don't like too many people." Mo Qingcheng smiled. No matter where she went, there would always be too many eyes staring at her. And these people were indeed very bored. "I want to ask you something. What sort of character is the Crown Prince of Snowcloud?" Qin Wentian suddenly thought of something as he asked. Mo Qingcheng's status was definitely extraordinary, maybe she would know something about him. The number of princes in the Snowcloud country is even more numerous compared to the Chu country. The Snowcloud country's situation is stable, and the authority of the emperor is even stronger than the Chu country. Not only that, the emperor of Snowcloud is in the prime of his life, but under such circumstances, the Snowcloud country has already decided on the position of crown prince. From this, one can see how outstanding the crown prince of Snowcloud is, far surpassing the other princes. He's the same as Chu Tianjiao, extremely powerful. Mo Qingcheng slowly spoke, her words causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen. The more powerful a character was, the harder it was to guess their intentions. Would such a character really mobilize so many people for the sake of Qin Yao, disregarding their relationship with Chu and helping Qin Yao to save her? This caused him to feel even more uneasy. "Oh yeah, there's one more thing I want to tell you." Mo Qingcheng stared at Qin Wentian, her countenance solemn. "What's the matter?" Qin Wentian asked. "I've heard some rumors that the Crown Prince of Snowcloud has a very high possibility of marrying a princess of Chu." Mo Qingcheng spoke in a low voice, causing Qin Wentian's heart to tremble violently, as his countenance instantly turned incredibly unsightly to behold. "Is this news reliable?" There shouldn't be any mistakes." Mo Qingcheng nodded her head in reply. "Thank you." Qin Wentian's heart was suddenly filled with an intense worry. Since the Crown Prince of Snowcloud had a marriage alliance with a princess of Chu, why would he go to such lengths to offend the Chu country for the sake of Qin Yao? Not only that, the news of Qin Yao coming to Chu, how big of a commotion would there be in the Snowcloud country? Maybe, not many people knew about this. Qin Yao was only a candidate for the Crown Prince's wife in name. She didn't have any major powers supporting her in Snowcloud country, and not many people even knew of her existence. In other words, there was a very high possibility that Qin Yao was being used by someone else. Mo Qingqing sighed in her heart as she saw the expression on Qin Wentian's face. She also knew that the reason why Qin Yao was sent to Chu wasn't to save Qin Wu and Qin Chuan. Initially, she didn't want to tell Qin Wentian about this, because she felt that the current Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to change anything. It would be better for him to stay in the Emperor Star Academy and cultivate peacefully. However, this time around, she met Qin Wentian here, and coincidentally, Qin Wentian also had his own suspicions. Mo Qingqing nodded her head, but it was enough for Qin Wentian to understand. Oi, are you guys treating me like air? When are you guys going to finish chatting? Nolan, who was at the side, had her hands on her hips. Finally, she couldn't bear it any longer as she glared at Qin Wentian. She didn't know what kind of luck this fellow had, to be able to interact with Mo Qingqing alone. Emicham, I'll take my leave first. Qin Wentian nodded his head, causing Nolan's beautiful eyes to freeze as she blinked. To think that it was actually Qin Wentian who took the initiative to say that he wanted to leave. This was truly, causing her to be speechless. You better return to the Emperor Star Academy first. Mo Qingqing spoke to Qin Wentian. She was worried that he would be dragged into this mess. He couldn't care less about Qin Yao's matters. Qin Wentian didn't say anything, he merely nodded his head to Mo Qingqing before departing. His brows were tightly furrowed, evidently worried for Qin Yao. After the conversation with Mo Qingqing, his heart grew heavy. Qin Yao was one of the most important people in his life, how could he not be worried? There's one more thing. Mo Qingqing, who was standing behind him, spoke again. Qin Wentian turned his head, only to hear Mo Qingqing saying, that Lu Yan, you don't owe her anything. Emicham. Qin Wentian felt somewhat puzzled, but because he was still worried, he casually nodded his head and didn't ask any more questions. Is this fellow an idiot? Nolan walked to the side of Mo Qingqing, staring at the back view of Qin Wentian in a daze. There were very few people who could remain so calm in front of Mo Qingqing. Why didn't you speak more clearly? He didn't even know what you meant. You should have told him that you carried him on your back that day. Nolan smiled mischievously, causing Mo Qingqing to roll her eyes. Qin Wentian strolled about the hunting grounds, his heart heavy. The news of the marriage between the Crown Prince of Snowcloud and the Princess of Chu was still lingering in his mind. I'm afraid that I can only bring Sister Yao away now. Qin Wentian silently mused. No wonder earlier when he was chatting with Qin Yao, there were people who came to investigate. Maybe it wasn't because they wanted to protect him, but rather, it was a form of surveillance. At this moment, the earth trembled. Qin Wentian abruptly stood up, only to see that in the distance, a group of warhorses were galloping madly, sweeping through the dark forest. These were none other than the silhouettes from the banquet, and it seemed as though they were on their way to hunt. Qin Wentian had been strolling about the dark forest for quite some time. Most probably, the banquet had already ended, and the descendants of the aristocratic clans had already entered the dark forest to hunt. Reaching into his robes, Qin Wentian retrieved the Kirin mask and wore it on his face. After which, his silhouette dashed in the direction of the sound of hooves, akin to a gust of wind. They've dispersed. As Qin Wentian ran, he discovered that the group of people had already dispersed into the depths of the dark forest. From time to time, there would be some low-level demonic beasts roaming about, but they were all easily killed. Sister Yao's group is over there. Qin Wentian's gaze was fixed on Qin Yao's group, and he followed closely behind them. However, he had always been moving in the shadows. The terrain of the dark forest was the best cover for him. Yanaro. At this moment, Qin Wentian discovered that Yanaro wasn't riding his horse. Instead, he was following closely behind Qin Yao's group. This caused Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen. What did Yanaro mean by this? Qin Wentian's senses had always been sharp. He discovered Yanaro's presence, but Yanaro didn't seem to notice him. He was like a hunter, following closely behind Qin Yao's group. There are people in the surroundings as well. Qin Wentian suddenly felt that he was being stared at. From all directions, silhouettes could be seen moving in his direction, surrounding him. What do they mean by this? If they wanted to act against Sister Yao, why would they use such a method instead of directly attacking her? Qin Wentian knew that if the people from Snowcloud had colluded with the Chu country, they would have too many methods to deal with Qin Yao. Why would they need to go through so much trouble? At this moment, Qin Wentian's mind was completely tensed up. He shifted his body to the side, only to discover that there were two people following him. Evidently, he had been discovered. Chapter 80. Qin Wentian's silhouette was as fast as lightning as he dashed towards the forest. The sounds of rustling echoed unceasingly, and after a period of time, the pursuers stopped, giving up on their pursuit. After all, they still had things they needed to do. At this moment, Yanaro's speed was also extremely fast. He waved his hands to the people around him as he commanded, "Follow me closely." Everyone nodded their heads in silence. Everything was proceeding in silence. Time flowed by slowly. The group of people departed from the royal hunting ground and had already entered the depths of the dark forest. Demonic chi permeated the air, and many of them slowed their steps as they advanced. Mu Rou had already dismounted her horse. After killing a demonic beast, she retrieved the beast core in a clean and efficient manner. Many of them from the aristocratic clans would follow their elders to temper themselves when they were very young. Hence, they were extremely familiar with hunting. Demonic chi. At this moment, Mu Rou abruptly raised her head, gazing into the distance. After which, without any hesitation, she turned and fled. She had long since learned how to discern the degree of danger based on the density of the demonic chi in the dark forest. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to withstand this demonic chi, hence she decisively fled to the side. Just as she fled, a terrifying wave of scorching chi gushed over. The ancient trees on both sides of the forest seemed as though they were on the verge of burning up. Very quickly, a few ferocious demonic beasts appeared in her line of sight. These demonic beasts had the bodies of lions, but their heads were even more malevolent. Not only that, their bodies were as tough as rocks, yet there was also a faint glow of fire flickering on their bodies. Astral demonic beasts, Fyrock lions. This type of demonic beast could absorb astral energy from the fire attribute constellation to grow. Not only that, their bodies were as tough as rocks, and their defense was extremely tyrannical. Not only that, the Fyrock lions were extremely ferocious and bloodthirsty. They ferociously pursued Mu Rou. Mu Rou sprinted with great speed, but very quickly, she discovered that there was also a powerful demonic chi in the vicinity of her. Chu Ling, Mu Rou saw a silhouette in the distance, currently defending against the encirclement of a pack of demonic wolves. The silhouette seemed to be in a sorry state, as though he would collapse at any moment. Other than Chu Ling, another group of people were also battling against the demonic beasts. These people were none other than Qin Yao and some others from the Snowcloud country. Mu Rou madly sprinted in the direction of Chu Ling's location. Even before she arrived, her second astral soul, the Windstorm astral soul, had already been released. Her speed increased tremendously, and in the blink of an eye, she neared Chu Ling. Slashing out with her palms, an intense wind blade directly tore a demonic wolf apart. "You don't have to do anything," Chu Ling said coldly, but her hands did not stop moving. There's a powerful demonic beast coming. Let's go. Mu-Ro roared. However, it seemed that it was already too late. She, who was being held back by the demonic wolves, soon saw a few cinder-classed lions charging over, surrounding her. You deliberately harmed me. Chu Ling's countenance turned ashen as she stared at the Cinderrock lions. Based on the aura emitted by these Cinderrock lions, they were at least at the 5th level of the arterial circulation realm, equivalent to the 3rd level of the arterial circulation realm. As for these astral beasts, their strength should be at the 5th or 6th level of the arterial circulation realm. The Cinderrock lions spat out a ball of flames towards them. Mu-Ro's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold, as the windstorm enveloped her body. Her movement technique was extremely fast, and she dodged the flames as she inched closer to the Cinderrock lions. The defense of these Cinderrock lions was extremely strong, and based on her strength, if she didn't land a direct hit on the Cinderrock lions, she wouldn't be able to do anything to them. While the two of them were fighting miserably, Yanaro slowly walked out, with a smile that was not a smile on his face as he stared at the battlefield. Yanaro, why aren't you helping? Chu Ling called out to Yanaro, only to see Yanaro laughing as he replied, should I help you, or should I help Mu-Ro? Mu-Ro hates you very much, so don't be so thick-skinned and stick yourself to others. Chu Ling coldly replied, but as the sound of her voice faded, she let out a cry of fear, as she was almost attacked. Mu-Ro's countenance stiffened. In the past, her relationship with Chu Ling was extremely good. Who would have thought that because of Qin Wentian, Chu Ling would actually hate her so much? Hee hee. Yanaro didn't seem to be in a hurry to act, as he laughed, what conditions do you guys promise me? I'll give you 50 pieces of Yuan meteor stones from the 2nd heavenly layer. Chu Ling silently cursed Yanaro in her heart. This bastard actually dared to extort her at such a time. Mu-Ro didn't say anything, and continued fighting. At this moment, a gust of wind blew past at an extremely fast speed. The silhouette of a person dashed to Mu-Ro's side, and with a dragon's roar, he punched out with his fist, directly hitting a Cinderrock lion. Boom! The terrifying force of the punch actually sent the Cinderrock lion flying back. One could see how powerful the dragon-subduing fist was. Is that him? Mu-Ro's countenance brightened when she saw who it was. This was a man wearing a Kirin mask. Although he had changed his clothes, from the way he moved and the way he executed the dragon-subduing fist, it should be none other than Qin Wentian. Chu Ling also noticed the appearance of Qin Wentian. She didn't expect that the Kirin-masked man from the City of Illusions would appear here. She wondered which academy he was from. Leave it to me. Qin Wentian's voice was low as he executed the 9 heavenly Garuda movement technique. Momentarily, Mu-Ro only saw a series of afterimages appearing behind him. The demonic wolves had no way to withstand a single strike from Qin Wentian. Even the Cinderrock lion would suffer heavy injuries if it was struck by Qin Wentian. The dragon-subduing fist, an innate technique at the pinnacle of humanity, could unleash a terrifying might in the hands of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was using divine energy from the 5th heavenly layer, how could his attacks not be tyrannical? Yanaro's countenance turned extremely unsightly when he saw this scene. It was him, the member of the Knights Association in the City of Illusions. In the blink of an eye, in front of Qin Wentian, there was only one remaining Cinderrock lion, the human Wuxia, whose strength was at the 6th level of the arterial circulation realm. Roar! The Cinderrock lion let out an earth-shattering roar of rage as it madly dashed towards Qin Wentian. In that instant, Qin Wentian didn't even bother to dodge. He directly dashed towards the Cinderrock lion, not using any movement techniques. Die! A low voice sounded out from Qin Wentian's mouth, as he simultaneously blasted out a tyrannical palm strike. This palm strike was erratic and contained both hardness and gentleness, containing a terrifying might. With a cracking sound, the skull of the Cinderrock lion was directly shattered into pieces. After which, it slumped to the ground, not a single sound could be heard. How powerful! Chu Ling's heart trembled. Qin Wentian's aura was only at the 5th level of the arterial circulation realm, yet he actually possessed such terrifying combat prowess. Most probably, he could even kill stellar martial cultivators at the 6th level of the arterial circulation realm. As for Yanaro, his countenance flickered with a sharp light. The palm strike earlier seemed similar to the Thousand Hands imprint, but at the same time, it wasn't. Mu Rou, on the other hand, was much calmer. She had sparred with Qin Wentian for many days, and knew that he was extraordinary. Her silhouette flickered as she helped Chu Ling sweep away the demonic wolves in the surroundings, and very quickly, the battlefield was cleared. On the other side, although the battle between Qin Yao and the rest had yet to end, Qin Yao wouldn't be in any danger. Boom! At this moment, a tyrannical sword intent abruptly gushed forth from Yanaro's body. He took a step in the direction of Qin Wentian, as a desolate killing intent gushed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian abruptly turned around, as a cold glint of light flickered in his eyes as he stared at Yanaro. Bzzz. Yanaro dashed towards Qin Wentian, as the sword chi exuding from his body grew increasingly tyrannical. It was as though a terrifying storm of swords was brewing around him. Boom! Qin Wentian's footsteps shook the ground, as he madly sprinted towards Yanaro. The boundless divine energy in his body frenziedly circulated towards his 5 arterial pathways, as the sound of his divine energy rumbling could be heard. Chi, chi. Yanaro stabbed out with his finger, as a sword materialized in the middle of his finger, piercing towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's body swayed back and forth like a willow catkin, and at the instant the sword neared him, he merely brushed past the sword chi. Humph, Yanaro coldly laughed. With a flick of his palms, he punched out with his 5 fingers, as though the sword chi wanted to lacerate everything in its path. And at the same instant, Qin Wentian's arterial pathways emitted a terrifying rumbling sound. His body abruptly shifted to the side, as his palms slammed towards Yanaro with the force of a hurricane, akin to a raging tempest. The attacks of the two collided together, as the palm imprints were unceasingly torn apart. Qin Wentian was forced backwards, and so was Yanaro. He felt his blood and qi churning violently within his body, and when he looked at Qin Wentian again, an intense killing intent could be seen in his eyes. Qin Wentian lowered his head and glanced at the front of his robes. Numerous holes had been lacerated by the sword chi, and if it weren't for the fact that he had retreated so quickly, the sword chi would have already injured him. Given Yanaro's cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, it wouldn't be easy to defeat him. At this moment, there were many silhouettes around. Qin Wentian surveyed his surroundings, as his silhouette flickered as he retreated to the side. He cast a glance in the direction of Qin Yao, and at this moment, Qin Yao and the rest had already settled their problems, and were continuing on their way. No. At this moment, a cry of terror drifted over, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen. It was the voice of Qin Yao. Qin Wentian sprinted in that direction, and very quickly, his gaze froze as his entire body trembled. In Qin Wentian's field of vision, there was a black-colored castle. This castle was extremely large, yet it exuded a sense of eeriness, as though it couldn't see the light of day. The pitch-black gates of the castle were made from black iron, and gave off an extremely heavy feeling. However, just outside of this castle, there was a drill ground surrounded by demonic beasts. In the middle of the drill ground, a group of terrifying demonic beasts were currently attacking a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's entire body was covered in blood, and his hair was in a mess. Only his eyes were still filled with vigor. "Father!" Qin Yao screamed. "Father!" Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath, trying his best to maintain his calm. Yanaro and the rest had followed Qin Yao all the way here. Could it be that they were waiting for this moment, to allow Qin Yao to arrive here and witness such a cruel scene? Was this battle prepared for Qin Yao? What was Chu Tianzhao's purpose? Yanaro, Chu Ling, Mu Rou, and many others also arrived here, as they stared at the castle in front of them. The legendary Black Castle. Mu Rou murmured in a low voice. The Black Castle was a place where death row criminals were imprisoned. It was rumored that it was located in the depths of the dark forest, and once you entered the Black Castle, it would be impossible for you to escape even if you grew wings. That middle-aged man was Qin Yao's father. In that case, he should also be Qin Wentian's father. Thinking of this, Mu Rou walked to the side of Qin Wentian, as she whispered, "The Black Castle is an extremely important place, and the security inside is incomparably tight. Only those who enter can enter, but not those who leave. However, Qin Chuan is currently outside the Black Castle. This might be a trap, don't fall for it." Qin Wentian's heart trembled. So it turned out that Mu Rou already knew of his identity. Naturally, this was a trap. But why would Chu Tianzhao want to lay such a trap? He didn't understand. In his heart, a raging fire burned. Chapter 81. Upon seeing Qin Yao, Qin Chuan's countenance changed. He couldn't help but berate her, "Qin Yao, don't bother about me." Qin Yao's countenance stiffened as her countenance paled. Tears welled up in her eyes as she replied, "Father, how can I not care about you?" After which, she turned and stared at Yanaro, "Where's Chu Tianzhao? Why are you doing this?" Chu Tianzhao didn't appear. Yanaro took a step forward as he emotionlessly stated, "Qin Yao, this man is a serious criminal of our Chu country. This matter has nothing to do with you, and you are not allowed to interfere." Good, how vicious. Qin Yao's countenance was ice-cold. "I want to save him." One of them exclaimed, "This place is Chu, and that man is a serious criminal of our Chu country. Not only that, the experts from our Snowcloud country aren't here." Only now did Qin Yao realize that Chu Tianzhao had used the hunting grounds as an excuse to allow them to temper themselves, while leaving the experts from Snowcloud country behind. Not only that, along the way, there seemed to be someone intentionally or unintentionally guiding her here. It seemed like this was all part of Chu Tianzhao's plan. "This is my matter, it has nothing to do with you." Qin Yao spoke as she turned and walked towards Qin Chuan. "Qin Yao, think carefully. Those who dare to barge into the Black Stronghold shall be killed without mercy." Yanaro roared. Qin Chuan also roared in rage, "Qin Yao, go." However, how could Qin Yao listen to him? She dashed towards the drill grounds where Qin Chuan was located. Yanaro coldly laughed, "Qin Yao, you are courting death." As the sound of his voice faded, several silhouettes appeared in the surroundings, surrounding the drill grounds. Apart from them, Yi Zhan, Lu Yu and the others who attended the banquet had also arrived. Their hearts were filled with astonishment. So it turned out that the third prince had already made arrangements. The Black Stronghold was a restricted area, and if it wasn't for someone intentionally allowing them to enter, they wouldn't even be able to get close to it. Qin Yao dashed into the drill grounds. Although Qin Chuan was heavily injured after being imprisoned in the Black Stronghold, he could still unleash the combat prowess of a cultivator at the 5th or 6th level of arterial circulation. He was even stronger than Qin Yao. Not only that, Yanaro and the rest were like tigers watching their prey, as though they were watching a show. They didn't seem to be in a hurry to deal with Qin Chuan and Qin Yao. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. Qin Wentian stepped forward, but he was held back by Mu Rou. Mu Rou spoke in a low voice, "Qin Yao has already fallen into the trap, you can't walk right into it." If Qin Wentian interfered at this time, Yanaro and the rest would have a reason to deal with Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's pitch-black eyes stared at the two silhouettes on the drill ground. He looked into Mu Rou's eyes and said in a low voice, "How can you endure after seeing your father like this? How can you be a human?" As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Wentian's body sprinted madly. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, he stepped into the drill grounds, leaving Mu Rou staring at his silhouette in a daze. The men of the Qin clan all had bones of steel. Seeing Qin Wentian's participation, the crowd was stunned. Even Qin Chuan and Qin Yao were puzzled. But very quickly, a cold smile flickered in Yanaro's eyes. This Kirin young man was courting death. Friend, this matter has nothing to do with you. Leave. Qin Chuan killed a demonic beast, as he spoke to Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian didn't reply. His movements were swift and nimble, and the might of his palms pulsed out as he killed a powerful demonic beast. At this moment, the demonic beasts on the drill ground were gradually being cleared out. However, in the surroundings, there were still many soldiers with bows in their hands, aiming their arrows at them. Now, you still want to leave? Yanaro coldly laughed. Following which, the rest of the soldiers dashed forward, pouncing towards Qin Wentian and his two companions. He had exchanged blows with the Kirin young man twice, and to him, this was simply a humiliation. The sword chi radiating from Yanaro was extremely terrifying, as he howled in rage. His body madly dashed forward, as he pointed his finger in the air, as though he wanted to unleash the power of his innate technique to the extreme. Qin Wentian stepped out, as his arterial pathways rumbled. His palms congregated with boundless might as he blasted out with the revolving sea imprint, no longer concealing it. Die! Yanaro howled in rage as his astral soul erupted. This finger strike was one of his strongest attacks, and its might was incomparably terrifying. However, the terrifying palm imprint blasted out by Qin Wentian seemed to be able to engulf everything in its path, destroying everything in its path. The terrifying vibrational force caused the robes of the two of them to be torn apart. Sounds of slicing rang out, as the Kirin mask on Qin Wentian's face was torn apart by the sword chi, revealing his true features. His devilishly handsome countenance was filled with a resolute determination, while the eyes of the youth were filled with a cold killing intent. Qin Wentian. Yanaro's voice was filled with an intense killing intent. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the opponent he was unable to defeat would actually be Qin Wentian, whom he had humiliated a few months ago. Those from the aristocratic clans were all stunned as they stared at Qin Wentian. Not long ago, the target of ridicule at the banquet, the person who was rumored to be extremely arrogant in the Emperor Star Academy, had actually become so powerful. Chu Ling's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. Initially, she was filled with disdain towards Qin Wentian, but now, she discovered that Qin Wentian's combat prowess far exceeded hers. This made her feel extremely uncomfortable. He's already so powerful. Lu Yen murmured in a low voice, as a hint of disappointment could be seen in her heart. Wentian. Qin Chuan, upon seeing that the person who had arrived was actually Qin Wentian, felt both joy and worry in his heart. He was happy because Qin Wentian had only cultivated for less than a year, yet he already possessed such tyrannical combat prowess. Wentian, who sent you here? Qin Yao's countenance paled. She didn't expect that Qin Wentian would appear here. Qin Wentian turned his head back and smiled at the two of them. The coldness in his eyes disappeared, replaced by a gentle smile. Father, sister. Nonsense, leave immediately. Qin Chuan roared in rage, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen. Stay here, kill them all. As the sound of Yanaro's voice faded, a group of experts lunged towards them. Qin Wentian and Yanaro once again clashed against each other. Sword chi crisscrossed the area, palm imprints pulsed out in a frenzy as they clashed against each other. Lu Yu, go and kill him. That will be considered as a meritorious deed, paving the way for your future. Yi Zhan spoke to Lu Yu. Lu Yu's countenance stiffened as he glanced at Yi Zhan. After which, he nodded his head and brandished a divine weapon in his hands as he advanced forward. Lu Yan's heart trembled as she witnessed this scene. She appeared exceptionally weak and delicate as she cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian, but she didn't say anything. Qin Chuan also had his own opponents. He was very clear that since they were outside of the Black Stronghold, it would be very easy for their opponents to take their lives. Yet, they still chose not to act because of that laughable deduction. Wentian, you are actually already so strong. At this moment, Qin Chuan's entire body was covered in dirt. But as he stared at the back view of the youth, his eyes were filled with tears. He, Qin Chuan, had a son and a daughter. What more could he ask for? He could only lament in his heart at the ruthlessness of the emperor. While Yanaro and Qin Wentian were fighting, there were already quite a few people surrounding them, ready to act at any moment. At this moment, the two of them clashed once again. The sharp sword and the palm imprints clashed against each other, both of them were extremely strained. A chance. Lu Yu and the rest froze when they saw this scene. Since Qin Wentian had delivered himself to their doorstep, they had to kill him. Seeing the attacks coming towards him from his left and right, Qin Wentian roared in rage, "Scram!" A terrifying amount of divine energy was spat out from his mouth as a terrifying palm imprint blasted that person away. At the same time, Qin Wentian's gaze sharpened as he stared at Lu Yu. Lu Yu's sword was already flying towards him, and he could only retract his hand. Executing the seizing hand, Yanaro's sword chi broke through his defense, leaving behind a bloody wound on his body. At the same time, Yanaro's body was forced back by the impact of Qin Wentian's palm imprint attack. Qin Wentian didn't bother to look at the bloody wound on his body. Instead, he shifted his gaze onto Lu Yu, his hand still holding onto Lu Yu's sword. Lu Yu glanced at his surroundings, only to discover that he was alone. His countenance couldn't help but stiffen as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Qin Wentian, I was forced to do this for the sake of my younger sister's future. In any case, you are going to die today. If you really have feelings for Lu Yan, why don't you grant me your wish?" Qin Wentian indifferently glanced at Lu Yu, and with a jerk of his hand, the sword was snatched away by him. Clutching onto the tip of the sword, he stared at Lu Yu, "On account of our previous friendship, I won't kill you." Scram! Lu Yu retreated slightly, yet he didn't give up. He still wanted to deal with Qin Wentian. "You idiot!" From afar, two graceful silhouettes sprinted over. These two silhouettes were none other than Imo Qingcheng and Nolan. "Qin Wentian, Qingcheng has already told you that you don't owe Lu Yan anything. Why are you so stupid?" That day in the forest outside of Sky Harmony City, it was Qingcheng who fed you medicinal pills and helped you to boil the medicine. Only when we saw Lu Yan and the others did we leave. Lu Yan was merely passing by and glanced at you. "You idiot!" Nolan was infuriated. This fellow didn't cherish himself at all. Lu Yu wanted to kill him, yet he still cared about Lu Yan's friendship. What a fool, what a fool. Qin Wentian's heart trembled, as he turned his gaze onto Mo Qingcheng's beautiful countenance. Mo Qingcheng stood there, looking as beautiful as ever. She lightly nodded her head, "It was that little rascal beside you that led me to you. This is also the reason why it recognized me." Qin Wentian thought back to the day when he first arrived at the royal capital. The first time he truly saw Mo Qingcheng, little rascal had indeed leapt into her sedan. His gaze involuntarily shifted to Lu Yan as he spoke, "So, it wasn't you who saved me outside of Sky Harmony City." Lu Yan had a blank expression on her face. Her elder brother Lu Yu had always told her that Qin Wentian liked her, and that was why he treated her so well. She didn't know that Qin Wentian did it because he wanted to repay her kindness, and it was true that she didn't save Qin Wentian. She was merely passing by. Now that she heard the words of Mo Qingcheng and Qin Wentian, she seemed to understand something. So, everything was just a misunderstanding. Seeing the expression on Lu Yan's face, Qin Wentian understood everything. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face, one that was somewhat bewitching. "So it turns out that we've only met once." Qin Wentian spoke. After speaking, he turned his gaze onto Lu Yu, as a look of mockery flashed in his eyes. I've even saved your lives in the dark forest before. I have no right to interfere in your lives, nor do I have the right to control which circles you want to enter. We are merely strangers, but I really don't understand why you would be so shameless, wanting me to be sent to you to be killed, in exchange for your future. How ridiculous is this? As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian stepped out, as his killing intent gushed forth frenziedly, causing Lu Yu's countenance to turn incomparably unsightly, as terror flickered in his eyes. Chapter 82. Lu Yu retreated, his countenance pale as he spoke. Qin Wentian, on account of Lu Yen, let's forget about this. Qin Wentian inclined his head and gazed in the direction of Lu Yen, as a mocking smile appeared on his face. Although it was a misunderstanding, it should have been a beautiful one, and we could still be friends. Sadly, you made use of this misunderstanding to kill me. As for Lu Yen, I don't owe her anything. As he spoke, the killing intent radiating from Qin Wentian intensified. Not only did he not owe Lu Yen anything, on the contrary, Lu Yen owed him her life. Lu Yen stared in the direction of Qin Wentian, as though she wanted to cry. She understood that Qin Wentian was right, she was the one who owed Qin Wentian. What was laughable was that when her brother Lu Yu said that Qin Wentian liked her, she actually believed him and allowed her brother to make use of Qin Wentian's feelings to deal with Qin Wentian. Die. Qin Wentian blasted out a palm imprint towards Lu Yu. Lu Yu raised his hands to defend, but was instantly engulfed by the terrifying palm imprint, killed in a single strike. No. Lu Yen squatted on the ground and cried. She closed her eyes, as though she didn't dare to look at this scene. When Qin Wentian looked at Lu Yen, there wasn't much sympathy in his eyes. Earlier, when Lu Yu tried to kill him, Lu Yen didn't even say a word. Maybe her character wasn't bad, but that attitude of hers was extremely disappointing. After all, he had saved her life before. Very good. At this moment, a voice drifted over from afar. The gazes of the crowd turned over, only to see the third Prince Chu Tianjiao and Luo Qianqiu galloping over. They sat on their horses, looking down at Qin Wentian with indifference and calmness. It was as though nothing in front of them could affect them. Qin Wentian, rescuing a prisoner on death row is a crime punishable by death. Even if you are a student of the Emperor Star Academy, it's the same. Chu Tianjiao calmly stated, convicting Qin Wentian with a single sentence. As soon as he finished speaking, the soldiers around the drill ground immediately aimed their arrows at them. At this moment, it seemed that they could not escape even if they had wings. Yao Wentian, silly children. Qin Chuan felt guilt in his heart. His children had a bright future ahead of them. Were they going to be buried here? Boom, boom. The earth abruptly trembled as a terrifying demonic qi gushed over, causing the expressions of the crowd to freeze. Qin Chuan was also stunned, and his eyes flickered. Chu Tianjiao's countenance was as calm as ever. However, a faint smile could be seen on his face as he murmured in his heart, "You finally couldn't endure it any longer? I've been waiting for a long time." The gates of the black stronghold opened as a group of troops clad in armor exited. Chu Tianjiao commanded, "Capture the three of them and bring them back to the black stronghold. I want them alive." Yes. The group of experts rushed out and pounced towards Qin Wentian and the others. A horde of demonic beasts galloped over, appearing in their vision. Qin Chuan's heart was ignited with a glimmer of hope as he shouted to Qin Wentian and Qin Yao, "All of you flee, don't bother about me. They won't dare to kill me." After speaking, he dashed towards the group of experts rushing over. Lifting his palms, he placed them on the crown of his head. "If you guys take another step forward, I'll definitely die on the spot." Qin Chuan roared, his voice booming out, causing the group of experts to slow down as they turned their gazes towards Chu Tianjiao. Qin Chuan turned his body and stared at Chu Tianjiao as he icily stated, "A man of character doesn't need to be pitied even if he dies. I, Qin Chuan, am an iron-blooded man. I'll do what I say." Qin Chuan was gambling. These few days, Chu Tianjiao had been making use of him, as though he wanted to draw out something. It was as though Chu Tianjiao was gambling with his father. Qin Chuan was betting that Chu Tianjiao wouldn't dare to let him die. And indeed, Chu Tianjiao waved his hands, causing the experts to halt their advance. At the same time, the horde of demonic beasts rushed over, as though they were about to go berserk. The archers instantly aimed their arrows at the demonic beasts, as they began to slaughter them. Qin Chuan spoke to Qin Wentian and Qin Yao, "You guys leave, if there's even the slightest chance, you have to escape." "Father." Tears flowed down Qin Yao's cheeks. How could she bear to part with her father? Qin Wentian also looked at Qin Chuan, "Father, if you want to leave, let's leave together. If you don't leave now, I'll die right here in front of you." Qin Chuan raised his palms, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to turn extremely unsightly, as his body heaved up and down violently. "Father!" Qin Yao shouted loudly, only to see Qin Wentian pulling her hand as they madly dashed towards the side of the road. Mo Qingqing inclined her head and stared at the skies, feeling somewhat anxious in her heart. Why weren't they here yet? "Qianqiu, do me a favor." Chu Tianjiao spoke in a low voice to Luo Qianqiu. Luo Qianqiu nodded his head, understanding Chu Tianjiao's intentions. After which, he mounted his warhorse and galloped in the direction of Qin Wentian and Qin Yao. Other than Luo Qianqiu, there was also a group of silhouettes chasing after Qin Wentian and Qin Yao. This group of people were all extremely young, yet the aura they exuded was exceptionally cold. Mo Qingqing stepped out, only to hear Chu Tianjiao saying, "Qingqing, I don't wish to obstruct you." Upon hearing his words, Mo Qingqing halted her steps as she sighed in her heart. She was very clear that if Chu Tianjiao interfered, it would be impossible for her to help Qin Wentian even if she wanted to. "Chu Tianjiao, why must you do things so ruthlessly?" Mo Qingqing stared at Chu Tianjiao as she spoke. "I know that the ancestors of the Mo clan had a deep connection with Qin Wu, but things have already happened so long ago. The Qin clan is no longer the Qin clan of the past, and the Mo clan has already chosen to stay out of this matter. Qingqing, why must you interfere in this matter?" Chu Tianjiao replied. "Why must the Chu clan be so ruthless?" Mo Qingqing sighed as she gazed into the horizons. She knew of Luo Qianqiu's identity. In the Chu country, Luo Qianqiu was a taboo existence. Even the royal clan wouldn't dare to antagonize him, and even the Emperor Star Academy could only tolerate him. Not only that, Luo Qianqiu's combat prowess was exceedingly high. Mo Qingqing could only wish Qin Wentian good luck. Even if she wanted to interfere, she didn't have the strength to do so. Qin Wentian pulled Qin Yao along as he madly sprinted through the dark forest, executing the Garuda movement technique to the extreme. However, he discovered that the pursuers were all extremely powerful, and their speed wasn't any slower than him. "Sister, you leave first." Qin Wentian spoke to Qin Yao. "No way." Qin Yao decisively rejected. "If you don't leave, neither of us will be able to escape. But if you leave, I still have a chance." Qin Wentian spoke to Qin Yao, "Your speed is too slow, you will only drag me down." Qin Yao felt a sense of disappointment when she heard Qin Wentian's words. She knew that Qin Wentian was intentionally angering her, but what Qin Wentian said was the truth. "Wentian, father has already been captured. You must not fall into their hands again." Qin Yao's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she stared at Qin Wentian. "Don't worry, sister, I still have to take care of you." A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Qin Yao heavily nodded her head, "I will wait for you." As the sound of her voice faded, Qin Wentian released her hand as he halted his steps. "Leave quickly." Qin Wentian berated. Qin Yao wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes as she endured the pain in her heart and continued running. Seeing that Qin Yao had left, a gentle smile blossomed on Qin Wentian's face. However, when he glanced at the pursuing silhouettes, his eyes flickered with a cold light. In his hands, the gold Punisher sword was clenched tightly. The pursuing silhouettes, upon seeing that Qin Wentian was alone, wanted to split up and pursue him. However, Qin Wentian only saw the gold Punisher sword in his hand as he roared in rage, "Whoever dares to take another step forward, this third-rank divine weapon will explode." As the sound of his voice faded, astral energy gushed into the gold Punisher sword as a terrifying sword chi gushed forth, causing the pursuing silhouettes to abruptly halt their steps. "This is a third-rank divine weapon bestowed upon me by an elder of the Emperor Star Academy. If you wish to die, come at me." Qin Wentian's lips curled up in a cold smile. The pupils of the pursuing silhouettes narrowed when they felt the sword chi. Based on the talent Qin Wentian had displayed in the Emperor Star Academy, there was a high possibility that his words were true. "Kill him from afar." Luo Qianxiu galloped over, as he coldly commanded the pursuing silhouettes. Momentarily, a tyrannical aura gushed forth from the bodies of the pursuing silhouettes, blasting towards Qin Wentian. The divine energy in Qin Wentian's body circulated frenziedly as he blasted out with the revolving sea imprint. The tyrannical energy collided with the silhouettes, causing Qin Wentian's body to be forced backwards by the force of the collision. His blood and chi churned violently, yet he still couldn't bear to release the sword in his hand. He wanted to buy time for Qin Yao. Kill. The group of experts continued advancing, unleashing powerful attacks in succession. Qin Wentian retreated step by step as he coughed out blood. His countenance paled, but the resolution in his eyes was as incomparably resolute as before. "If I can't protect my father today, and if I allow Sister Yao to fall into danger as well, I would have wasted my reputation as a man." Qin Wentian's countenance was ice-cold. The revolving sea imprint in his palms blasted out in a frenzy, filling the skies with destructive palm imprints. However, this could only delay him for a short period of time. Not long after, Qin Wentian had already coughed out an unknown amount of blood. Within his body, the astral energy in his body was on the verge of drying up. Those who were attacking unceasingly from afar were all silently admiring Qin Wentian's tenacity. Very swiftly, they began to move in different directions. Qin Wentian was going all out. They needed a group of people to circle around him and pursue Qin Yao. But at this moment, Qin Wentian roared in rage as he lunged forward. The gold element sword in his hands slashed out as he frenziedly channeled astral energy into it. How fast was Qin Wentian's speed? In an instant, he closed the distance between him and Qin Wentian. The gold element sword also slashed out, and in an instant, a terrifying sword light erupted forth, transforming into a rain of swords that filled the skies. And at the same instant, because Qin Wentian had disregarded everything and rushed forward, he also suffered a terrifying impact. His body was flung through the air, and when he landed on the ground, he coughed out another mouthful of blood. However, his eyes were still fixated on the scene in front of him, as the rain of swords continued to frenziedly reap lives. Just like what Ren Qianqing had said, the gold element sword was a single-use divine weapon. Its might was extremely strong, and its attack range was also extremely vast. In an instant, it had wiped out countless lives. Chapter 83. Qin Wentian sat on the ground, ignoring the turbulence in his body. He retrieved his silver needles and pierced them into various acupoints. In an instant, his blood boiled once more as he executed the 12-linked life needle technique, wanting to break the shackles of his bloodline. At the same time, he donned a pair of divine weapon gloves that were inscribed with the origin returning divine imprint. Boom! A leg swept over, leaving behind afterimages of the leg, wanting to destroy Qin Wentian who was sitting on the ground. Since this person was able to survive the attack of the gold element sword, it was evident that he had some outstanding points. The strength of his leg was extremely terrifying, and his speed was also extremely fast. Hence, he was the first to rush over. Boom! Qin Wentian stretched out his palms, directly grabbing onto the leg that could shatter boulders. That person lost his balance as his countenance drastically changed. He stared at Qin Wentian only to see a blood-red light flickering in his eyes, akin to that of a primordial beast. An astral hammer appeared in Qin Wentian's left hand as he ferociously smashed it towards his opponent. Instantly, a scream of agony rang out. At the same time, Qin Wentian stood up as the aura exuding from him grew increasingly violent. With a step, he dashed towards the two experts who wanted to pursue Qin Yao. His perfect-grade Garuda movement technique, in addition to his explosive strength, caused his speed to be incomparably fast. In an instant, he had already caught up to them. The Vajra imprint slashed out, directly killing the two of them. Luo Qianqiu sat on his warhorse, personally witnessing everything that happened. His countenance fluctuated slightly. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian would actually use a secret art to activate his bloodline. In addition to the divine weapon gloves, he was able to erupt forth with even greater combat prowess. However, in his eyes, Qin Wentian was merely putting up a last-ditch struggle. Emicham. At this moment, Luo Qianqiu inclined his head and stared into the distance. He could sense a terrifying demonic qi rushing over in his direction, causing the sky to be shrouded by a layer of haze. Seems like the commotion today wasn't small at all. To think that a small wave of demonic beasts would be triggered. Luo Qianqiu couldn't help but exclaim in his heart when he saw the overwhelming amount of demonic qi. Don't chase after Qin Yao. Those people also saw the terrifying demonic qi coming from afar. They nodded and looked at Qin Wentian. Now, it was time to kill him first. Luo Qianqiu dismounted his warhorse and took a step forward. In an instant, Qin Wentian felt an intense sense of danger. Although Luo Qianqiu's steps appeared slow, it felt as though he could descend at any moment. His entire body was bathed in the might of lightning, akin to a terrifying god of thunder. Boom! The ground trembled as Luo Qianqiu appeared in front of Qin Wentian. Punching out with his fist, boundless lightning might gushed forth as the resplendent rays of light were so blinding that no one could open their eyes. Qin Wentian took a step forwards, as his arterial circulation imprints erupted forth with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas, causing the heavens and earth to howl. Luo Qianqiu's steps were as steady as empty tie as he advanced forward, his fist light vibrated thrice, as though he had punched out thrice consecutively. The terrifying shockwaves were transmitted to Qin Wentian's body, causing him to feel as though his body was about to be torn apart. How powerful! The spectators, who had wanted to rush forward, couldn't help but exclaim in admiration upon seeing Luo Qianqiu's strength. This was Luo Qianqiu, who had the bearing of his father. Back then, Luo Qianqiu's father had turned the entire Chu country upside down. Qin Wentian could also feel the tyrannical might of Luo Qianqiu's astral souls and innate techniques. With a howl of rage, the divine energy stored within his divine glove erupted forth. In that instant, he blasted out with his palm, akin to a raging tsunami, his palm imprint engulfing the heavens and earth. Luo Qianqiu's countenance stiffened as he released his lightning senior astral soul. Qin Wentian felt his entire body going numb. He also circulated his divine energy to his eyes, yet his body was still flung backwards from the impact. At the same time, Luo Qianqiu's footsteps slashed across the ground as he was forced backwards. He couldn't help but stare in bewilderment at the divine glove on Qin Wentian's hands. Lifting his head, Luo Qianqiu could feel that the demonic qi was getting stronger and stronger. He could even see demonic beasts madly sprinting towards him. Involuntarily, he shouted, "Retreat!" As the sound of his voice faded, those who had survived the pursuit of Qin Wentian all retreated. However, Luo Qianqiu once again advanced towards Qin Wentian. Before he retreated, he had to kill this brat first. Qin Wentian swallowed the blood he was about to spit out when he saw Luo Qianqiu approaching. The divine energy in his body started to churn violently. Luo Qianqiu's strength was too strong, and the disparity between their cultivation bases was too great. Luo Qianqiu was at the peak of the 7th level of arterial circulation. He could deal with Yanaro, who was at the 7th level of arterial circulation, but the disparity between him and Luo Qianqiu was too great. Go! Luo Qianqiu landed in front of Qin Wentian as he blasted out with his palms. Qin Wentian only felt a lightning-type Zun rushing towards him, he had no way to defend against it. Gathering all his strength, Qin Wentian blasted out with a palm strike. However, he could feel his palm strike being destroyed unceasingly. Finally, a terrifying mandate of lightning penetrated into his body, causing him to be flung through the air once again, before slamming heavily onto the ground. His entire body no longer had the slightest bit of strength left. Luo Qianqiu saw a group of demonic beasts madly sprinting towards him. He turned and fled at an extremely fast speed, causing rumbling sounds to echo unceasingly. This was the sound of the demonic beasts trampling on the ground. A demonic beast landed beside Qin Wentian, lowering its head and glancing at Qin Wentian. After which, it took a detour around Qin Wentian's body and continued its mad dash forward. Very quickly, more and more demonic beasts dashed towards Qin Wentian. However, none of these demonic beasts dared to trample on Qin Wentian's body. Instead, they took a detour around Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian could sense all of this. He felt as though he was about to die. His consciousness was already drifting about, as though it was difficult for him to regain his consciousness. If my consciousness dissipates, I will die. I have to live on. In Qin Wentian's heart, an incomparably strong conviction surfaced. He couldn't die. How could he die before he could exact his revenge? His father, Qin Chuan, was trapped in the Black Stronghold, how could he die? After Sister Yao left, he might fall into a dangerous situation at any time. How could he die? If he died, how could he face the gratitude of Teacher Mustang? If he died, how could he face the care and concern of Senior Sister Luo Huan? If he died, Fatty would most likely be bullied by those from the Knights Association. Qin Wentian, he couldn't die. His consciousness couldn't dissipate. At this moment, an extremely powerful demonic beast appeared beside Qin Wentian. It was the black-winged condor. Its body was covered with phoenix feathers, and its eyes were as sharp as swords. The black-winged condor lowered its head and stared at Qin Wentian. Its sharp eyes flickered with uncertainty, as though it was contemplating something. Qin Wentian could sense the presence of the black-winged condor. It was as though the black-winged condor had grown eyes, and could see everything in the surroundings. As long as the black-winged condor willed it, he would die a miserable death on the spot. I can't die. The conviction in Qin Wentian's heart grew stronger and stronger. Abruptly, it was as though a dream force was born. Abruptly, he and the black-winged condor appeared in a unique space. The black-winged condor froze, as a look of bewilderment flashed in its eyes. Dreamscape. The black-winged condor stared at Qin Wentian. It was as though Qin Wentian could hear its words. He didn't want to die in the dark forest. His intense conviction had actually allowed him to step into the second level of the Dreamcast art, the Dreamscape. This was Qin Wentian's dream. He had created a dreamscape, and the black-winged condor had been dragged into it as well. With the black-winged condor's strength, it could forcibly tear apart the dreamscape and retreat. However, it didn't. What kind of bloodline do you have in your body? The black-winged condor was able to communicate with Qin Wentian because this was Qin Wentian's dream. I don't know. Qin Wentian shook his head. Then who are you in the Chu country? Why do you have the Dreamcast art? The black-winged condor asked again. The Dreamcast art was extremely rare in the Chu country. Only now did Qin Wentian understand that the intelligence of the demonic beasts in the dark forest was much higher than what he had imagined. I'm Qin Wentian from the Sky Harmony city of the Chu country. As for the Dreamcast art, it's a cultivation technique passed down to me by an elder of mine. Qin Wentian cautiously replied. The black-winged condor muttered to itself for a moment before continuing, "You've suffered heavy injuries, yet you didn't die. Not only that, you also have such a powerful bloodline. Let me gift you a stroke of good fortune. Whether you live or die, it's up to you." After speaking, the black-winged condor tore apart the dreamscape. After which, Qin Wentian felt himself soaring up into the air, as the black-winged condor grabbed onto him with its talons, and flew towards the depths of the dark forest. After the departure of the black-winged condor, the demonic beast tide also began to recede. It was as though the black-winged condor was the leader of the demonic beast tide. Very quickly, the dark forest returned to its former tranquility. In the air, there were experts riding on demonic beasts. "Qingqing, where are you?" An old man riding on a griffin asked. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes flickered as she replied, "I'm not sure. I was intercepted by Chu Tianjiao, and Luo Qinqiu chased after Qin Wentian." Luo Qinqiu again. A cold glint of light flickered in the eyes of the old man. Beside him, there was another expert. It was none other than Ren Qianqing. This Chu Tianjiao's actions are crazy and audacious, and he dares to do anything. Not only that, he's also very close to that person. If he were to become the Emperor Star Academy, I'm afraid that in the future, the Emperor Star Academy would be in danger. Ren Qianqing spoke in a low voice, as he cast his gaze towards the depths of the dark forest. "Qianqing, just like what Qingqing said, Qin Wentian's talent is in no way inferior to Luo Qianqiu's. Not only that, he's also someone who values relationships. Now that I'm in a desperate situation, if he survives, the Emperor Star Academy will definitely do its best to support us." The old man spoke, causing Ren Qianqing to nod his head. "I've already planned to include him in my plans. If he survives, the Emperor Star Academy will pave the way for him." As the sound of his voice faded, they continued their search in the depths of the dark forest. However, they still couldn't find any traces of Qin Wentian, not even his corpse. Chapter 84. In the depths of the dark forest, there was a hillside that very few people set foot on. There was not the slightest bit of demonic qi in this place. It was a pure land. On top of a gigantic boulder, a silhouette could be seen lying on it. This silhouette was none other than Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian did not even know where he was. He only knew that he had to protect his will. The 12 linked chains needle technique. Uncle Black had once warned him not to use the needles before stepping into Yuanfu. He had no way to withstand the explosive power of his bloodline limit. Previously, it was only because he was under the care of those from the Emperor Star Academy that he managed to escape unscathed. But this time around, not only did he have to use the needles, his body was also severely injured. How could his life not be in danger? At this moment, Qin Wentian had no strength left in his body. He could only maintain his vitality with his strong willpower. "I can cultivate in my dreams." Qin Wentian was very clear that for cultivators, strength would allow their vitality to flourish. If he wanted to live, he had to recover his strength first. However, to his astonishment, he discovered that this space seemed to be isolated from the heavens and earth. He had no way to sense the constellations around him, nor was he able to draw astral energy into his body. This situation made Qin Wentian feel a little desperate. Without energy in his body, he might even starve to death in a few days. Could it be that this place will be my burial ground? Qin Wentian's heart was filled with reluctance. He couldn't die here. He wanted to break through the shackles of this space. His strong will gave birth to a powerful dream consciousness, allowing him to spy on this space. On this vast and empty land, he was the only one lying on a gigantic rock, feeling so helpless. But at this moment, in his dream, he saw a mountain peak that was faintly discernible not too far away, piercing through the heavens. This is not my dream. Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently. After which, more mountain peaks appeared, all the way until there were 9 towering peaks that towered into the heavens. Qin Wentian's heart was filled with awe. The 9 peaks were like objects from beyond the heavens, faintly discernible. Was this all real, or was it a dream? Even Qin Wentian himself couldn't tell the difference. Qin Wentian's will drifted about as he saw a scene of a middle-aged man in green robes roaming the world. He arrived at the top of a mountain, and upon seeing the beautiful scenery, he decided to take a nap on a huge rock. When he fell asleep, 9 peaks appeared around the hillside. Then, countless images appeared on the 9 peaks. Qin Wentian's eyes couldn't take it all in. He saw the middle-aged man plucking a constellation from the sky with a single hand, he saw the green-robed middle-aged man cleaving apart mountains and rivers with a single slash, and he even saw the middle-aged man piercing a hole in the heavens with a single finger. However, everything seemed to be a dream. After the middle-aged man woke up, he patted the dust off his body and smiled. After that, he walked away in a carefree and unrestrained manner. As for the mountain peaks, they disappeared without a trace. In a dream, I can travel the world, in a dream, I can see the past and present, in a dream, I can pluck the stars and moon, in a dream, I am the craziest. Life is but a dream, why not be carefree and have a great dream? The middle-aged man laughed in a carefree and unrestrained manner, leaving behind a great dream on the hillside. A great dream. Qin Wentian's heart trembled slightly. His will drifted towards a certain mountain peak as the image of the mountain flickered unceasingly. In an instant, Qin Wentian felt a suction force gushing over, wanting to devour his will. He discovered that he was already in the image of the mountain peak. This place seemed to be recording a dream. The middle-aged man in green transformed into a kunpeng, soaring between the heavens and the earth. That pair of huge eyes suddenly stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian only felt a terrifying demonic light flashing in the eyes, sharper than swords. With a miserable shriek, Qin Wentian felt as though he was about to die. No. Qin Wentian roared in his heart. His consciousness was still alive in this world, how could he die? Since it's just a dream, why would I be afraid of this heaven-dominating qi? Qin Wentian abruptly inclined his head, not fearing that pair of demonic eyes at all. It was as though a myriad of beams of light could penetrate through his body, yet his heart remained unmoved. The kunpeng soared through the heavens and earth, riding the wind for tens of thousands of miles. Who could compete with its speed? Qin Wentian's heart trembled violently. His consciousness retreated from this image and entered the second mountain peak. In the second mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green transformed into an ancient deity, capable of plucking the stars from the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian didn't know how many times he had died. Time and time again, he endured that destructive intent, using his strongest will to prevent his consciousness from being extinguished. On the third mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green could shatter mountains and rivers with a single finger. With a single point of his finger, the heavens and earth were destroyed, everything was destroyed. On the fourth mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green roared, causing the mountains to crumble and the earth to split apart. On the ninth mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green could see through everything with a single glance. All living beings would be annihilated under his gaze. It was unknown how many times Qin Wentian had experienced the agony of being on the verge of death. Under that kind of pressure, he was like a grain of sand in a desert, so insignificant and insignificant. However, he still managed to preserve his life. 9 ancient mountains, 9 types of towering wills. Each and every one of them possessed the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian's consciousness retreated as he sighed. What a great dream! Although the middle-aged man in green had left behind a dream here and his strength was extraordinary, Qin Wentian didn't believe that the 9 mountain peaks were real. Just like what the middle-aged man in green had said, life was just a dream. Why not be carefree and unrestrained? 9 ancient mountains, 9 dreams. Why aren't these the 9 abilities of the middle-aged man in green? Qin Wentian mused in his heart. Each dream contained the power to destroy the heavens and earth. But why couldn't the middle-aged man in green magnify his strength to the max, allowing him to have a great dream? Genius. Qin Wentian sighed. This middle-aged man in green was definitely a genius. He had once thought that the great dream astral soul required a specific innate technique to unleash its power. However, the middle-aged man in green had given him a huge shock. Dreams, in and of themselves, were a type of power. The power of dreams could be found everywhere. Qin Wentian seriously contemplated. Right now, he had calmed down and was no longer as fearful of death as before. He wouldn't die. This kind of conviction grew stronger and stronger. Let's have a grand dream. Qin Wentian murmured in a low voice, protecting the strand of his will as he contemplated the painting of the 9 peaks. Time slowly flowed by. On the first mountain peak, the painting shone with a resplendent light. At this moment, in the dark forest, many demonic beasts could be seen heading in this direction. After a period of time, they saw a second mountain peak appearing. Momentarily, a terrifying sealing force appeared, causing the demonic beasts to tremble in fear. These demonic beasts knew that this place sealed all external energy. Without Yuan Qi, without demonic Qi, they would be trapped in a dream, not knowing where they were. However, at this moment, in that space, the dreamlike mountain peak actually appeared, emitting a resplendent light. When the 9 mountain peaks lit up, a terrifying energy permeated the air. Terrifying waves of energy gushed forth, enveloping the entire dark forest, sealing everything. The demonic beasts started to go into a frenzy as they frantically tried to escape. In the air, the black-winged condor's eyes gleamed with sharpness as it stared in that direction. Did that young man who could create dreams really resonate with that dream? The 9 mountain peaks converged together in the air, transforming into a resplendent screen that isolated everything from the outside world. In the middle of that screen, in Qin Wentian's dream, a silhouette flickered. This silhouette was none other than the middle-aged man in green. Naturally, only Qin Wentian could see the appearance of the middle-aged man in green. At this moment, he was smiling as he stood in the air, staring at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian pays his respects to Senior. Is this a dream? Qin Wentian couldn't help but to respectfully greet the middle-aged man. This is my dream will. You can enter my dreams and allow a strand of my dream will to manifest itself. I'll bestow upon you a stroke of good fortune. What do you want? The middle-aged man smiled as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stared at the screen of light in the air as he spoke. Senior, you must have used a sealing technique to seal this dream here, right? I want the 9 mountain peaks to not obstruct my cultivation. That's simple. The middle-aged man's footsteps trembled as the sealing technique shattered. From now on, this sealing technique will not obstruct your cultivation. What else do you want? I want the demonic qi of the dark forest to be absorbed into my body, transforming into the Kunpeng imprint. Qin Wentian spoke again, only to see the middle-aged man grabbing out with his palm. Momentarily, the entire forest howled as boundless demonic qi gathered there, transforming into a terrifying vortex that flowed unceasingly into Qin Wentian's body. If you can't digest it, this can't be considered good fortune. What else do you want? The middle-aged man continued. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness, akin to an unsheathed sword. The reason why he was in such a dangerous situation today was all because of the third prince of Chu, as well as Luo Qianxiu and the others. In the future, he would definitely repay them. I want this Chu country to not be able to obstruct my path. Qin Wentian's voice rang out. The middle-aged man laughed again. I'll leave this for you to do, it can't be considered a request. Obtaining this opportunity can be considered good fortune, Junior doesn't dare to ask for too much. In the future, if there's a chance to meet with Senior again, I will definitely thank you personally. Qin Wentian respectfully replied. A good fortune, a dream. Since you are able to activate the dream I left behind, allowing me to manifest my dream will, this can also be considered good fortune. Even if you don't want good fortune, I will still bestow you good fortune. This is my path of cultivation, it has nothing to do with you. The middle-aged man laughed. After which, his eyes flickered as a resplendent imprint rushed into Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness trembled as he awoke from the dream. At the same time, the dream will of the middle-aged man soared into the horizon, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. A good fortune, a dream, this was his path of cultivation. On the lonely hillside, only Qin Wentian quietly lay there. There was no middle-aged man, no screen of light, no 9 mountain peaks. Chapter 85. Qin Wentian lay alone on top of a gigantic boulder. There was no movement at all, only a gentle breeze could be heard. However, every time night fell, the gigantic boulder on the hillside would emit a resplendent glow of astral light. Above the dome of heaven, specks of astral light cascaded downwards, illuminating the silhouette lying on top of the boulder. It was as though this was an eternal scene. The second level of the Dreamcast art, Immerse Dreams, allowed one to absorb astral energy at an even faster rate. Not only that, Qin Wentian had comprehended something in his heart, allowing the astral light to unceasingly enter his body, circulating through his entire body, replenishing his energy and breaking through his meridians. Occasionally, Qin Wentian would use the Dreamcast art to cultivate his innate technique. In his dreams, there was nothing he couldn't do. For cultivators, as long as they could absorb astral energy, it didn't matter if they didn't eat or drink. Astral energy was energy. The weather gradually turned cold. Occasionally, a cold wind would brush past, fluttering the robes of the youth. However, his eyes were still closed, as though he was in an eternal slumber. Today, the sky was dark. Raindrops continuously dripped onto the body of the youth, drenching his robes. However, he was still in a deep slumber, as though he had entered a state of oblivion. In the sky, the sound of thunder rumbled, the cold wind howled, and lightning flashed down from the heavens. The youth was still unmoved. However, his countenance gradually changed. The contours of his face became more distinct, and he seemed to be even more determined. The winter snow drifted down, covering the body of the youth, as though he was wearing a layer of snow-white clothing. Snow also drifted down in the royal capital of Chu. Today, the youths of the various academies stood outside their houses, forgetting their cultivation as they admired the beautiful snowy scenery. In the Royal Academy, there were many students strolling in the snow. Many of them were lovers. Although their cultivation bases weren't high, they were still in the prime of their youth, the most beautiful period of their lives. After this age, if they decided to pursue the martial path, they would never be able to find the simplicity they had today. The path of the martial path was filled with hardships and cruelty. Mu Ro inclined her head, gazing at the drifting snow in the sky. She sighed in her heart. It had been over 2 months, yet she hadn't seen his silhouette in the City of Illusions, nor had she heard any news about him. Perhaps, like many other talented youths, he had died prematurely in his youth, and he might not even be well known by others. The history he had created in the Emperor Star Academy might have caused quite a commotion, but this commotion would soon be washed away by the passing of time. There would be new characters appearing, attracting the attention of the crowd. In the vast royal capital of Chu, there had never been a lack of talented youths. Last year, it was Luo Qinxiu. This year, it was Qin Wentian. However, Luo Qinxiu was still creating his own story. Beside her, the sound of footsteps rang out. Mu Rou turned around and saw Yi Zhan and Lu Yen. Yi Zhan used his family connections to bring Lu Yen to the royal school. Mu Rou glanced at Lu Yen, who was standing beside Yi Zhan. This young girl didn't have a bad heart. It was just that she had come from a small place and experienced many things in the royal capital. It was inevitable that she would develop her own values and choose the life she wanted. And the life she was currently living was undoubtedly what she wanted. This couldn't be blamed on her. It was just that Qin Wentian had said that he had once saved Lu Yen and Lu Yu. Back then, when Qin Wentian was facing that kind of situation, Lu Yen chose to remain silent, appearing to be somewhat heartless. However, everyone had their own ambitions. Mu Rou didn't have the qualifications to blame Lu Yen. At the very most, she wouldn't have anything to do with Lu Yen. Mu Rou, I heard that because of you, the Mu clan has been distanced from by many other clans. Do you want to consider befriending Yanaro? After all, Yanaro has always been interested in you. Yi Zhan spoke in a light voice, causing Mu Rou's countenance to stiffen, as she felt somewhat unhappy. The incident that happened a few months ago in the royal clan's hunting grounds had naturally spread out. Although she emphasized that it was only her personal opinion, the old foxes of the various clans were all extremely meticulous in their actions. Even if it was because of the attitude of the third prince, Chu Tianjiao, they wouldn't be too close to the Mu clan. Hence, the Mu clan had been distanced from by many other clans. As for Mu Rou, she was under immense pressure. Currently, the cultivation resources of the Mu clan were gradually getting further and further away from her. There's no need for you to worry about my matters. Mu Rou calmly replied, but in her heart, she sighed. In the past, her relationship with Chu Ling was so good, but after that incident, Chu Ling didn't just give her the cold shoulder for a few days. Instead, Chu Ling had completely severed all ties with her, even coldly glaring at her whenever they met. He, because of a dead man. Yi Zhan mocked, as he walked past Mu Rou. Lu Yen, who was beside him, lowered her head, not saying a single word. Because of a dead man? Mu Rou sighed. Had he really died? Mu Rou also didn't know why she couldn't forget about Qin Wentian. Naturally, this couldn't be considered as love. She had only met the masked Qin Wentian once. Maybe it was because of the fateful encounter in the City of Illusions, causing her to feel a faint trace of longing for him in her heart. In the Emperor Star Academy, in a loft, a graceful silhouette stood there. This silhouette was none other than the #1 beauty of Chu, Mo Qingqing. Qingqing, why do you have the time to visit an old man like me today? Old Gu walked over. This old man was none other than Mustang's master, Old Gu. Grandfather. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes turned to Old Gu as she asked, is there still no news of him? Old Gu naturally understood who Mo Qingqing was referring to, as he sighed in his heart. It had been so many days since Qin Wentian had returned. What a pity for a young man like him. Qingqing, it's very rare for you to show concern for someone. Old Gu laughed, as though he was intentionally changing the topic, causing Mo Qingqing to roll her eyes. Is there no hope? AI. Old Gu gazed into the distance, as he shook his head and smiled bitterly. I didn't know that Chu Tianjiao would be so ruthless and decisive. He actually made use of the banquet held by Qin Yao to act, not caring about the public opinion. Not only that, he used Qin Chuan as a bait. Compared to the first prince, this Chu Tianjiao is truly too ruthless. What a pity, the chances of the first prince controlling Chu are too slim. Grandfather, why can't the Mo clan step out to help the Qin clan? Mo Qingqing asked. After all, the Mo clan has a connection with Qin Wu. Things aren't as simple as you think. Behind the scenes, things are much more complicated than you think. The Mo clan stands aloof from the outside world, so naturally, it wouldn't be good for them to interfere. Old Gu calmly continued, do you still remember the joke your grandfather made with Qin Wu back then? If their descendants were of the opposite sex, they would become in-laws. A trace of a smile appeared on Old Gu's face. If the Qin clan was still the Qin clan of the past, maybe you and Qin Wentian would really have a connection. How long ago was that? Not only that, Qin Wentian isn't the son of Qin Chuan. Mo Qingqing laughed. Evidently, she had also heard of this matter from her elders. However, ever since the Qin clan moved to Sky Harmony City, the relationship between the Qin clan and the Mo clan was no longer as close as before. Now, as long as that fellow is still alive, everything will be fine. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes gazed into the distance as she silently prayed. Is Qin Yao still doing well? Mo Qingqing suddenly asked. Back then, when the people from the Emperor Star Academy were searching for Qin Wentian, they didn't manage to find Qin Wentian. Instead, they found Qin Yao and brought her back to the Emperor Star Academy. At the very least, there won't be any danger in the academy. Old Gu replied. Mo Qingqing lightly nodded her head. Chu Tianjiao will definitely not spare Qin Yao. Old Gu murmured. Based on my understanding of him, he wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal in the dark forest. Grandfather, do you mean that Chu Tianjiao will use Qin Chuan to threaten Qin Yao again? However, he has already done it once. What use would it be? To a person who values relationships, as long as Qin Chuan is in his hands, even if he did the same thing 100 times, Qin Yao would still fall into his trap. Old Gu shook his head. He understood this logic, so did Chu Tianjiao. Mo Qingqing could only remain silent. The dark forest was similarly covered in a thick layer of snow. At this moment, at the edge of the dark forest, a gigantic black-winged condor swooped down, landing on the ground and sweeping away the accumulated snow. From the back of the black-winged condor, a youth of about 17 years of age leapt down. He was clad in a beast-skin coat, and his youthful features were gradually shedding away, revealing a devilishly handsome countenance. This youth was none other than Qin Wentian. Senior, thank you for your kindness. Qin Wentian turned and thanked the black-winged condor. If it wasn't for the black-winged condor's help back then, he would have already died in the dark forest, becoming food in the stomachs of demonic beasts. A low voice emitted from the black-winged condor's beak. Qin Wentian laughed, "Don't worry, I will remember Senior's kindness in my heart. In the future, when I'm proficient in using the power of my bloodline, I will definitely make a trip there to gift Senior 3 drops of my blood essence." It was as though the black-winged condor understood Qin Wentian's words. Its gigantic wings fluttered in the air, and its body soared up into the skies, creating a terrifying hurricane that whistled through the air. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the disappearing black-winged condor. His heart was filled with bewilderment. He didn't know why the black-winged condor wanted his blood essence. Maybe there was something special about his bloodline. Back then when he was injured and fainted, many demonic beasts took a detour to avoid him. Not thinking too much, Qin Wentian turned around, and with his back facing the dark forest, he once again walked in the direction of the royal capital. On the snow-covered ground, footprints appeared. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a brilliance that was even sharper than a sword. This majestic and towering imperial city could not block his path forward. Chapter 86. The winter of Chu was extremely cold. Snowflakes fluttered about in the air, and many of the pedestrians on the streets wore cloaks. However, some of the stronger Wuxia still wore thin clothes, ignoring the cold. Qin Wentian wore a simple beast-skin cloak as he walked through the snow. Occasionally, he would pass by a few inns, and there would be some hot-blooded men drinking wine to ward off the cold as they discussed the major events in Chu. Such a snowy scenery, accompanied by fine wine, and coincidentally, a good friend is passing by. This is the most wonderful thing in life. At this moment, a clear voice drifted into his ears. Qin Wentian turned his gaze to the right, only to see a simple and crude house with a wine stall outside. There was only one table of customers, and there were two of them. Since a good friend is here, why not invite him over for a drink? Another person spoke. This person seemed to be in his late 20s, and had delicate features. Although he looked ordinary, he gave off an extraordinary feeling. This person's eyes were clear and spirited, and his smile was gentle, causing others to feel a sense of closeness towards him. "Brother Qin, how is it?" The first person who spoke turned and looked in Qin Wentian's direction with a smile. This young man was none other than Immortal Drunken Wine, and he was currently drinking wine with his friend. "Just nice, I'm borrowing the wine to ward off the cold." Qin Wentian laughed as he stepped into the wine stall. He cast a glance at the young man and asked, "May I ask who you are?" "Meeting because of wine, regardless of origin. If fate wills it, we will be friends again." The young man poured a cup of wine for Qin Wentian as he spoke with a smile. His demeanor was extremely carefree, not losing out to Immortal Drunken Wine in the slightest. "Meeting because of wine, regardless of origin. Just because of this, I have to drink a large bowl." Qin Wentian laughed. "Are you sure?" The young man stared at Qin Wentian with a smile that was not a smile. "Of course." Qin Wentian nodded. The young man smiled and filled Qin Wentian's cup to the brim. As the wine entered his body, Qin Wentian's eyes widened, and he was actually unable to swallow it in a single gulp. Cough, cough. Putting down the bowl, Qin Wentian coughed a few times. His face was flushed red, causing the young man in Immortal Drunken Wine to burst into laughter. "You brat, do you know how strong this wine is? You actually dared to boast about it?" Immortal Drunken Wine laughed happily when he saw the embarrassed look on Qin Wentian's face. Qin Wentian shook his head and smiled bitterly, rolling his eyes at Immortal Drunken Wine. "Why didn't you remind me? You said you wanted to drink a big bowl." The young man also said with a smile. Qin Wentian had no choice but to pick up the bowl and force himself to pour the wine down his throat. His face was already red. "It's your turn," Qin Wentian said to the young man. "All right, it's my turn." The young man laughed as he poured himself a cup of wine and gulped it down in a single gulp. When he placed the cup down, his expression didn't change in the slightest, causing Qin Wentian to sweat in his heart. This young man's alcohol tolerance was probably on par with Immortal Drunken Wine. "How about 2 more bowls?" The young man looked at Qin Wentian and laughed, causing Qin Wentian to roll his eyes. "Is there anyone who bullies others like this?" "I'll wait for you to train your alcohol tolerance before drinking again." The young man stood up and said to Immortal Drunken Wine, "If there's an opportunity in the future, bring this little brother here for a drink." As he spoke, he took the cloak and bamboo hat beside him and stepped into the snow, slowly departing. His footsteps were extremely slow, just like an ordinary person. This caused Qin Wentian to feel that this person was extraordinary. This person's strength should be extraordinary, right? Qin Wentian asked Immortal Drunken Wine. Immortal Drunken Wine shook his head as he stared at the back of the young man, feeling that it was a pity. This man is extremely intelligent and has a high sense of righteousness. The only regretful thing is that he can't cultivate. Immortal Drunken Wine sighed, his words causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen as a look of bewilderment flashed in his eyes. Immortal Drunken Wine was a straightforward person. Since he said that the young man was extremely intelligent and righteous, it was obvious that the young man was an extraordinary character. However, it was truly a pity that such a person couldn't cultivate. Qin Wentian couldn't help but think of himself. Back then, when he couldn't cultivate, he was also treated coldly by many people. If the other party was an ordinary person, it would still be fine. But if he was born in a noble family, it would be extremely difficult for him to survive. And from the aura of the young man, it seemed that the latter was more likely. Nowadays, there are rumors saying that you've already died. Who would have thought that you would appear here today? How gratifying. Immortal Drunken Wine smiled as he raised his cup to Qin Wentian. My luck isn't bad, it can be said that I've escaped death. Qin Wentian laughed. This time, it was even more dangerous than when he was chased by Orphan. If not for the wave of demonic beasts, if not for the black-winged condor, if not for that stroke of good fortune, he would have already been buried in the dark forest. Just like what many people had told him, there were many geniuses in the outside world, but the number of geniuses who died prematurely was also not small. One who survives a great calamity is bound to have good fortune later on. Immortal Drunken Wine didn't probe any further. What do you plan to do next? Return to the academy? Before returning to the academy, I'm preparing to make a trip to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Didn't you say that you wanted me to gift you a good sword? Do you want to come with me? Qin Wentian smiled as he looked at Immortal Drunken Wine. Immortal Drunken Wine's eyes lit up as he laughed. It seems like you've made some progress in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. Let's go, I'll accompany you to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. As he spoke, Immortal Drunken Wine stood up and walked with Qin Wentian on the snowy ground, heading towards the direction of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Their pace was extremely fast. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's return, Francis was also extremely happy. He had always been paying close attention to news regarding Qin Wentian. Not long ago, there was a rumor that Qin Wentian had died in the dark forest, causing him to be extremely worried. After knowing the purpose of Qin Wentian's visit, Francis informed Yang Chen. After which, Yang Chen sent over 3 other powerful weaponsmiths to Francis's personal weaponsmithing hall. Together with Francis, they used the most suitable materials to forge a divine weapon. Only the most important step, the inscribing of divine inscriptions, was left to Qin Wentian. The final result caused Yang Chen to be extremely excited, because the divine weapon forged was a second-level high-grade origin sword. The value of this type of sword was extremely high. It was able to amplify the strength of cultivators at the upper 3 levels of the arterial circulation realm, and even more so for cultivators at the middle and lower 3 levels of the arterial circulation realm. In addition to the yuan storage effect, once he had a suitable innate technique, the power he could unleash would be terrifying. Qin Wentian gifted Immortal Drunken Wine a second-level high-grade origin sword. Currently, he was only able to forge second-level divine weapons. If one day he was able to forge a third-level divine weapon, he would gift Immortal Drunken Wine another one. Qin Wentian's comprehension of divine inscriptions had improved, and he was able to forge a second-level high-grade origin sword. Naturally, he wouldn't lack yuan meteor stones for his cultivation in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Qin Wentian didn't immediately return to the Emperor Star Academy. Instead, he asked Yang Chen to help him gather information about Qin Yao. After learning that Qin Yao was currently in the Emperor Star Academy, his heart was at ease, and he was filled with gratitude. Luckily, the Emperor Star Academy was willing to help him. According to Yang Chen, the person who made the decision was one of the 9 honorary elders of the Emperor Star Academy. After that, Qin Wentian spent his days sleeping. Even Francis didn't know what he was doing. However, at this moment, in Qin Wentian's dreams, he stood in an empty world. In this world, it was as though he was the only person. In front of Qin Wentian, there were 2 gigantic diagrams. One of the diagrams was extremely complicated, and the runic lines on it were constantly changing, as though they were manifesting divine imprints. This was one of the cultivation arts that Qin Wentian cultivated, the spirit refinement method. By comprehending the diagrams, one could borrow the power of the divine imprints, using the astral energy of heaven and earth to condense one's divine energy. The second diagram was slightly simpler. Every stroke was filled with a majestic aura. A single stroke depicted mountains and rivers, and a single stroke depicted the spring and autumn. This diagram was majestic and majestic, representing the mountains and rivers of heaven and earth. This diagram was the rivers and mountains diagram. It was a gift from the green-robed middle-aged man who was born in the 9 peaks of the dark forest. It was incomparably mystical. It was as though the middle-aged man had used his dreams to form a diagram, drawing out the heavens, earth, mountains, and rivers in his heart. Under the comprehension of the middle-aged man, the meridians of the human body, the various types of innate techniques, and even the transformations of the mountains and rivers could all be drawn out in this diagram. What a terrifying comprehension ability, to actually use dreams to form the rivers and mountains diagram. Not only that, the rivers and mountains diagram is actually a terrifying cultivation art like the spirit refinement method. A thought flashed in Qin Wenqian's mind. The spirit refinement method used the power of divine imprints to condense divine energy, which could then be transformed into innate techniques. This was a method that very few people dared to think of. Faintly, there seemed to be a connection between the rivers and mountains diagram. From this, one could see how tyrannical the comprehension ability of the green-robed middle-aged man was. One could very well imagine that this middle-aged man was a peerless genius. Although the rivers and mountains diagram wasn't a cultivation art or innate technique, its value was still immeasurable. It was as though it could allow one to comprehend the myriad of existences in the heavens and earth. Qin Wenqian could only slowly comprehend the profoundness contained within. Qin Wenqian immersed himself in the 2 diagrams. Within these few days, he could feel that his comprehension of second-level divine imprints had improved tremendously. He could now easily inscribe second-level divine imprints. At the same time, the speed at which he condensed divine energy from his astral body grew increasingly faster. When the day came where he could condense divine energy in an instant, he would be able to use second-level divine imprints to condense his own divine energy. In the royal capital of Chu, snowflakes were still drifting about. The accumulated snow grew thicker and thicker. Many of the younger youths even piled up snowmen, while the older disciples of the martial academies were still busy with their cultivation, attempting to break through. At this moment, the demon-level genius of the Emperor Star Academy, Luo Qianxiu, was sitting cross-legged on the roof of a building, allowing the snowflakes to drift about freely. However, the snowflakes couldn't even touch his body. Bolts of lightning crackled around him, emitting a terrifying aura. Within his body, the terrifying astral energy from the lightning attribute frenziedly gushed into his arterial pathways, wanting to open up another arterial pathway and step into the 8th level of arterial circulation. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was blocked. As he opened his eyes, flashes of lightning could be seen flickering within. He cast his gaze in the direction of the heavenly star pavilion. What his father had failed to accomplish in the past, he would definitely accomplish it. Retrieving a medicinal pill, Luo Qianxiu popped it into his mouth. After which, he closed his eyes again, continuing his breakthrough. Everyone was busy with their own matters. Today, a piece of shocking news circulated around the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Within the Divine Weapon Pavilion, a genius grandmaster was born. At such a young age, he was already able to inscribe 3rd-level divine imprints, causing an uproar. Chapter 87. The news from the Divine Weapon Pavilion was undoubtedly shocking. Cultivators were always busy with their cultivation, and didn't have much time to comprehend divine inscriptions. In addition to the fact that inscribing divine inscriptions was exceedingly difficult, the best weaponsmiths were usually older, and would spend a large amount of time on comprehending and inscribing divine inscriptions. Naturally, stellar martial cultivators who had a forging-type astral soul would have an advantage in this aspect. But even so, it was impossible to inscribe a 3rd-level divine inscription without tens of years of hard work. And now, the news from the Divine Weapon Pavilion stated that the genius grandmaster who could inscribe 3rd-level divine inscriptions was not even 20 years of age. This was undoubtedly a heavyweight piece of news in the world of weaponsmiths. Being able to inscribe 3rd-level divine inscriptions meant that as long as one had the assistance of an experienced weaponsmith, in addition to the necessary materials, they would be able to forge a 3rd-level divine weapon. And these two things were not lacking in Chu. The reason why there were so few high-level weaponsmiths was because there were so few people who could inscribe high-grade divine inscriptions. Inscribing divine inscriptions was the most important step in the forging of divine weapons. However, just when many people were trying to find out who this young genius grandmaster was, the Divine Weapon Pavilion had completely sealed off the news. Evidently, the news that had been leaked by the Divine Weapon Pavilion wasn't intentionally leaked out, but was accidentally leaked by someone else. And the apprentice who leaked the news was currently under the strict control of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The loft that Qin Wentian resided in was tightly guarded. Yang Chen seemed to be loitering here, following Qin Wentian around, causing Qin Wentian to be speechless. Grandmaster Qin, as long as you agree to join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Yuan meteor stones you require for your future cultivation will all be provided by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Yang Chen spoke to Qin Wentian. Ever since he knew that Qin Wentian was able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions, he had never left Qin Wentian's side, raising all sorts of conditions. A 17-year-old who was able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions, there had never been such a character in the history of Chu. He was very clear on what he had to do. Even if I forge a divine weapon to exchange for it, it should be enough to support my cultivation at this stage. Qin Wentian replied, what I lack now is not Yuan meteor stones. I understand. Yang Chen smiled and said, if it's a beautiful woman, I will try my best to satisfy Master Qin. As he spoke, Yang Chen gave Qin Wentian a dubious look, causing Qin Wentian to be speechless. Old Yang, just call me Wentian. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled as he shook his head. Being addressed as Grandmaster Qin sounded a little awkward. Yang Chen, how did it go with Master Qin? At this moment, a melodious voice drifted over from outside, causing Yang Chen's countenance to turn solemn as he stared at Qin Wentian. Grandmaster Qin, the Vice Pavilion Lord of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, is here personally. Qin Wentian was startled as well. The Vice Pavilion Lord of the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Considering the wealth of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Vice Pavilion Lord's status was definitely extraordinary. Very quickly, Qin Wentian saw a beautiful lady walking in. This lady looked to be around 25 years of age, with exquisite facial features, fair skin, and an alluring figure. Just a single glance at her would cause one's heart to flutter. What a handsome fellow. I'll just call you Wentian. My name is Lu Yen. If you don't mind, you can just call me Sister Yen. The lady's voice was clear and melodious, as though it had a special charm to it, causing those who heard it to feel comfortable. With a single greeting, it was as though the distance between her and Qin Wentian had shortened. Sister Yen. Qin Wentian smiled as he returned the greeting. Yang Chen doesn't really know how to entertain people, so don't blame him. I'm here to tell you that from today onwards, all the resources of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will be open to you, including cultivation arts, innate techniques, and even high-level divine imprints. At the same time, the Yuan meteor stones that you require for your cultivation will be provided by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The information network of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will also be open to you, and if you need help, the Yuanfu realm experts of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will also be willing to help you. Lu Yen smiled as she spoke, causing Yang Chen and Francis, who were standing at the side, to tremble in fear. Such conditions were simply too terrifying. What do I need to do? Qin Wentian knew that in order to gain something, there must be a price to pay. The Divine Weapon Pavilion doesn't have any requirements for you. Liu Yen's smile bloomed like a blossoming flower as she passed a token to Qin Wentian. This token will grant you the authority of a Vice Pavilion head, the same as mine. Qin Wentian didn't stretch his hands out to receive it, but Lu Yen stepped forward and grabbed Qin Wentian's hand, before stuffing the token into Qin Wentian's hands. Little fellow, I want to see how you are going to freeload. Liu Yen's beautiful eyes winked at Qin Wentian, before she left with a smile on her face, leaving behind a speechless Qin Wentian. The Divine Weapon Pavilion didn't have any requirements for him, but just like in Liu Yan's final words, how could he be so shameless as to freeload? The reason why the Divine Weapon Pavilion had such a magnanimous attitude towards him was because they had investigated Qin Wentian's background and character. Only then did they make such a decision. Brother Wentian, if you have any problems in the future, feel free to look for me. Yang Chen cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian, as he sighed in his heart. The pavilion head was still the most decisive, not giving Qin Wentian a chance to reject. Seems like I've been tricked. After Yang Chen left, Qin Wentian stared at the token in his hands. Only now did he realize that from the moment Liu Yan walked in, he had only spoken a single sentence. It was as though she didn't even give him a chance to reject, and everything was so natural. Although the conditions proposed by Liu Yan could be said to be perfect, Qin Wentian couldn't help but to admire her methods. I'm going out for a walk. Qin Wentian spoke to Francis. After which, he donned his beast skin robe and walked out. Outside, the sky was still filled with drifting snowflakes. Qin Wentian inclined his head and cast a glance at the sky as he murmured in his heart. This winter snow, he didn't know when it would stop. During these few days, Qin Wentian had always been extremely tense. At this moment, he wanted to relax and take a walk. Unknowingly, he arrived at the main hall of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Although it was snowing outside, it was still bustling with noise and excitement. Many people were busy choosing their own divine weapons. Qin Wentian glanced around, and when his gaze landed on a certain direction, his eyes involuntarily narrowed. He saw a familiar face that he hadn't seen for a long time. Star River Association, Grandmaster Murin. Wu Xiu's senses were extremely sharp. Murin could sense that someone was paying attention to him, and after that, he also noticed Qin Wentian. His eyes flickered with astonishment, but he soon laughed, as though he was looking at Qin Wentian with disdain. I heard that you got Gretchen to warn me. Not only that, you caused quite a commotion back in the academy. You're really lucky to be able to appear before me alive. Murin's countenance was the same as back then in the Sky Harmony City. Although he appeared calm and indifferent, there was a hint of arrogance in his bones. Back then, when Qin Wentian didn't agree to become his disciple, he tricked Qin Wentian into joining the Star River Association. After which, Qin Wentian and the members of the Qin clan almost lost their lives there. From the start to the end, Murin had never placed him and the members of the Qin clan in his eyes. It was as though they were just tools to be used by him. If it was before, Qin Wentian might have been enraged when he saw Murin. But now, although he was enraged in his heart, his expression was extremely calm, as though he didn't care about Murin's words. I heard that Grandmaster Murin is a weaponsmith from the Star River Association. Why did you come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Are you here to purchase a divine weapon? Since when did you have the right to interfere in my matters? Murin mocked. Naturally, he didn't come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion to purchase a divine weapon. Rather, he wanted to see if he could find out the identity of the genius Grandmaster who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. Back then, Qin Wentian was already capable of inscribing simple second-level divine inscriptions. But even so, Murin didn't dare to associate him with the person he wanted to find out. Not even a year had passed, and as a weaponsmith, he knew very well how difficult it was to raise one's divine inscriptions to the next level. And now, he was still stuck at the second level, because he had no way to comprehend and inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. I can't be bothered with Grandmaster Murin's matters. I only hope that Grandmaster Murin will remember the despicable deeds he committed back then in the Sky Harmony City. Retribution will come sooner or later. Qin Wentian laughed. Murin coldly snorted as he continued, let's hope that you can survive until that day. After speaking, he flicked his sleeves and departed. Since Qin Wentian had already pointed out his identity as a weaponsmith from the Star River Association, he naturally wouldn't be able to continue staying here. Not to mention, he couldn't lower himself to deal with a junior like Qin Wentian in public. Hence, he could only leave. What a spoilsport! Qin Wentian murmured in a low voice. After which, he walked out of the Star River Association and casually strolled about in the snow, allowing the snowflakes to land on his body as they melted. After strolling about for a while, Qin Wentian didn't know where he had gone to. In the distance, a white silhouette that seemed to have fused together with the snow could be seen sprinting about, and when it arrived in front of Qin Wentian, it transformed into a blur as it leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace. Little rascal! Qin Wentian froze. He hugged Little Rascal as a gentle smile appeared on his face. Little Rascal, why are you here? After speaking, Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared ahead, only to see a silhouette jogging over and stopping in front of Qin Wentian. On the snowy ground, a white fur coat covered her perfect figure, revealing only a countenance that could topple the world. Mo Qingqing stopped in front of Qin Wentian, lowering her head as a smile appeared on her face. Lifting her perfect countenance once again, Mo Qingqing faced Qin Wentian. Let's get to know each other again. My name is Mo Qingqing. My name is Qin Wentian. A gentle smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at that clean and perfect countenance. Outside the Sky Harmony City, thank you for saving me. It's nothing much, it was Little Rascal who brought me there. Mo Qingqing smiled. Let's go sit at the side. Okay. Qin Wentian nodded. The two of them walked to an ancient tree. Qin Wentian took off his beast-skin coat and placed it on the tree. The two of them sat there with their backs against the tree. Mo Qingqing glanced at Qin Wentian, as though she didn't know what to say. She could only stretch out her hands, allowing the snowflakes to land on her delicate hands as she smiled. How beautiful the snow is. Qin Wentian nodded his head, and didn't say anything else. He quietly admired the beautiful scene of the falling snowflakes. Little Rascal lay quietly in the middle of the two of them, as though he was sleeping. The handsome young man and the beautiful young lady, as well as the falling snowflakes, formed a beautiful scene. Occasionally, passers-by would exclaim in their hearts when they passed by. This scene lasted for quite some time. Mo Qingqing turned her gaze to Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian also looked at her, still amazed by her beauty. You are really a dummy. Mo Qingqing giggled. After which, she stood up and walked away. The young lady slowly walked through the snow as her silhouette gradually disappeared. Dummy? Qin Wentian was stunned. Very dumb. Qin Wentian stared at Little Rascal in his arms as a radiant smile appeared on his face. Little Rascal nodded its head repeatedly, causing black lines to appear on Qin Wentian's face. As expected of Little Rascal, it was truly a bastard. Chapter 88. The accumulated snow in the royal capital grew thicker and thicker. Qin Wentian stood in the pavilion, gazing out as he wondered how long it would take for the snow to stop. Below the pavilion, a silhouette could be seen treading through the snow. Inclining his head, he stared at Qin Wentian. Wentian, the information you wanted, I've helped you find out. Upon hearing this, Qin Wentian leapt down from the pavilion, landing on the snowy ground. Uncle Yang, how is my father? Qin Wentian asked the Divine Weapon Pavilion to help him gather information on Qin Chuan. A few months ago, the news of the banquet was leaked out. Many people were dissatisfied with the way the royal clan handled things. After all, the Qin clan was the descendant of a loyal subject. Hence, Chu Tianjiao wanted Qin Chuan to plead guilty. Yang Chen stated to Qin Wentian, your father naturally wasn't willing. Hence, the royal clan decided that 2 days later, Qin Chuan would be escorted into the royal capital. My father is a man of iron and blood, he definitely wouldn't be willing to suffer such humiliation. Qin Wentian's countenance abruptly turned sharp. I think so too. To your father, this is too cruel. Not only that, Qin Yao wouldn't be able to sit still. Maybe they want to use your father to lure Qin Yao out of the Emperor Star Academy, and then use Qin Yao to threaten your father to plead guilty, killing two birds with one stone. Yang Chen stated in a low voice. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. Chu Tianjiao, this person, was too ruthless. What sort of character was his father, Qin Chuan? He would rather die than suffer such humiliation. I understand. Qin Wentian gazed at the drifting snowflakes in the air, not knowing what he was thinking. Wentian, this is a divine inscription ring, it can be used for storage. Although it's the simplest type of divine inscription ring, it can still store many things. Keep it. Yang Chen passed a stone ring to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian received it, and infused his astral energy into it. His heart trembled, he could actually feel that there was an internal dimension within the stone ring. This thing must be very precious, Qin Wentian said to Yang Chen. In our divine weapon pavilion, there's only one person capable of forging a divine inscription ring. This is because the spatial divine inscriptions are extremely valuable and extremely difficult to inscribe. Yang Chen smiled. Although he didn't directly reply, how could Qin Wentian not understand the value of this spatial divine inscription? Uncle Yang, I'll accept it. Qin Wentian smiled at Yang Chen. Work hard, this is the first time in my life that I've heard of a genius who can inscribe third-rank divine inscriptions at the age of 17. Yang Chen smiled as he patted Qin Wentian on his shoulder. Qin Wentian was clear in his heart that the divine weapon pavilion thought very highly of him. A powerful blacksmith could have endless wealth. If a fourth-ranked weaponsmith were to appear in the Chu country, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Many Yuanfu realm cultivators would all come to seek him out. Qin Wentian undoubtedly had this kind of potential. If there was a day where he could inscribe fourth-ranked divine inscriptions, the divine weapon pavilion would be able to hire weaponsmiths to assist him in forging fourth-ranked divine weapons. Lifting his feet, Qin Wentian walked in the direction of the weaponsmithing hall, preparing to forge a divine weapon for himself. The snow on the ground of the royal capital was already half a foot thick. Numerous majestic buildings were covered in snow, and the entire city seemed to be enveloped in a layer of pure white. There was a faint chill in the air. Even so, at the martial platform of the royal capital, there were many people who braved the wind and snow to come here. It was said that today, the Yi clan would be leading the troops to escort Qin Chuan to the royal capital, as a punishment for his crimes. Qin Chuan of Sky Harmony City, the descendant of General Qin Wu, would he plead guilty on the martial platform? From afar, a group of cavalrymen gradually approached. Hundreds of soldiers were escorting the iron prison, and within the prison, there was a man with disheveled hair who resembled a beggar. Qin Chuan of the Qin clan. The spectators sighed in their hearts. The group of soldiers escorted Qin Chuan to the martial platform, and after which, a man mounted a horse and stood in front of Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan, the Qin clan has already revolted. Why don't you confess to your crimes, and admit that the Qin clan had long planned this, and hand over all the chess pieces we planted in the dark? That way, you can suffer less. That man spoke to Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan inclined his head, and stared at the man, as a look of contempt flashed in his eyes. Bai Qingsong, you don't have the qualifications to question me. Scram. Qin Chuan's voice was filled with vigor, and his gaze was sharp as he stared straight at Bai Qingsong. Impudent. Beside him, a melodious voice drifted over. It was actually Autumn Snow. She sat atop her warhorse, staring down at Qin Chuan with a cold gaze. Autumn Snow, you and your father are only fit to be the lackeys of the Yi clan. What talent! You're still unable to condense your second astral soul, and without the help of my son Wentian, you wouldn't even be able to condense a third heavenly layer astral soul, and could only continue to strengthen your senses. Qin Chuan stared at Autumn Snow as he mocked, back then, I was blind, why would I agree to that marriage? Comparing you to Wentian, is like comparing a crow to a phoenix. Impudent. Autumn Snow's countenance turned extremely unsightly, as though Qin Chuan had touched her sore spot. Indeed, she had yet to condense her second astral soul. It wasn't that she couldn't condense it, it was just that she wasn't able to freely choose an astral soul from the third heavenly layer. Hence, she wanted to continue cultivating, in order to strengthen her senses. Who would have thought that Qin Chuan, who was in the Black Stronghold, would actually know about this matter? Today, the escorts are under the responsibility of both the Yi and Yen clan. Your Bai clan can only be the vanguard, running some errands. Although Qin Chuan was in a dangerous situation, he was still as calm as ever, as though he had already disregarded life and death. Shut up, Qin Wentian is already a dead man. Yanaro galloped over, pointing his finger at Qin Chuan, as a sword intent gushed out from his body. Since he refuses to admit to his crimes, bring him away. Let's set off. Yanaro coldly commanded. Momentarily, the troops got into formation, and prepared to escort Qin Chuan through the royal capital. The passers-by on both sides of the road saw that the few people at the front of the troops were all members of the younger generation, including Yanaro from the Yen clan, Yi Zhan from the Yi clan. These great clans had already begun to allow their younger generations to roam the outside world. In the future, these youths would become the pillars of their clans. Within the crowd, a maiden clad in white robes and a conical bamboo hat could be seen clenching her fists tightly. This maiden was none other than Qin Yao. Beside Qin Yao, Luo Huan gently held on to her hand. Sister Luo Huan. Qin Yao gritted her teeth, as she struggled in her heart. Your father would definitely not be willing to see the scene from back then. Luo Huan softly stated. But, my father is a man of iron blood, how can he endure such humiliation? Qin Yao's voice trembled slightly. Luo Huan sighed, let's wait and see. I heard from teacher that Wentian is still alive, but I have no idea why he didn't return to the academy. I'm afraid that he might come today. As they conversed, the hooves of the horses and the wheels of the carriages trampled the snow on the ground, leaving a trail of tracks behind them. The troops escorting Qin Chuan set off. However, after a few steps, the person in front waved his hand, causing the carriages to halt. The gazes of the crowd shifted to the front. On the snowy ground, a skinny silhouette clad in a beast-skin coat and a conical bamboo hat stood there silently, giving off a feeling that he had always been there. Yanaro's gaze was as sharp as a sword, piercing towards that silhouette as he coldly spat out, Qin Wentian. As the sound of his voice faded, the hearts of the crowd trembled. Emperor Star Academy, Qin Wentian. Qin Yao and Luo Huan shifted their gazes over, as their beautiful eyes froze. It really was Qin Wentian. This fellow, he really came. Luo Huan sighed. What a young man, only knowing how to be impulsive. However, this kind of impulsiveness caused the hearts of the crowd to feel warm. Qin Wentian removed his conical bamboo hat and tossed it onto the snowy ground. His gaze didn't even glance at Yanaro, nor did he glance at Yi Zhan or Lu Yen. He didn't even glance at Bai Qingsong or Autumn Snow. Silly child. Qin Chuan stared at the silhouette of Qin Wentian standing amidst the snow. His skinny figure was so tall and straight, causing the eyes of this iron-blooded young man to turn slightly moist. It's not that a good man doesn't have tears, it's just that his emotions have yet to be stirred. This was already the second time that Qin Wentian had acted foolishly. Qin Chuan gazed at the skies, gazing at the falling snowflakes as he sighed in his heart. Since the heavens had given him such a young man, why did they have to arrange such a fate for him? Wentian, since you're still alive, why bother coming again? Qin Chuan sighed. A smile appeared in the eyes of the youth as he replied, as a son, how can I not come? I've already fallen into a dangerous situation. Since you can't change anything, why must you still be so foolish? Qin Chuan sighed. As a man in this life, I only wish to look up to the heavens and earth with a clear conscience. Since I already know, I can't not come. Qin Wentian continued smiling as he continued, at the very least, with me around, I will not allow anyone to humiliate my father. In the midst of the snowstorm, the silhouette of the youth stood tall and straight. His words were sonorous and forceful, causing the countenances of the surrounding crowd to waver. Youthful and hot-blooded. Wentian, well said. A melodious voice rang out. Qin Yao tossed her bamboo hat aside as she walked out from the crowd, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian. Sis, why are you so foolish? Qin Wentian gazed at Qin Yao, as he gently stroked her face. Aren't you the same? Qin Yao replied, as the gazes of the two of them shifted onto the group of troops. Only to see a few troops galloping out on horseback, wielding long spears in their hands. Their countenances were sharp, and their killing intent could be seen flickering within. Capture them. Yanaro commanded. Momentarily, the troops transformed into a hurricane as they galloped towards the direction of Qin Wentian and Qin Yao. Snowflakes danced in the air, as the aura of the troops erupted forth. All of them were at the arterial circulation realm. From this, one could tell that this troop was an elite troop. Sis, let me do it. Qin Wentian pulled Qin Yao behind him, as he stood there with his back straight, as he stared at the warhorses galloping towards them. At this moment, the eyes of the youth were even sharper than swords. Chapter 89. The warhorses galloped forward, trampling the snow. Their long spears emitted a terrifying sharpness. Even before they arrived, their spears had already pierced out, resembling a venomous dragon, emitting a sharp whistling sound as they dashed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian took a step forward, causing the snow on the ground to explode. A raging wind gusted as a powerful aura erupted forth from his body. At this moment, he stood tall and straight, and every step he took contained a formless, majestic aura. Chi. Two long spears shot towards him from the left and right. Qin Wentian stomped on the ground again, causing the riders on their warhorses to feel a strong gust of wind buffeting them. Their eyes involuntarily narrowed. To think that Qin Wentian could actually unleash such a powerful aura. Abruptly, their long spears were grasped by a terrifying force. Scram! The terrifying force caused their bodies to be flung through the air, slamming into the riders behind them. In an instant, all of them fell off their warhorses. Qin Wentian walked slowly through the snow, his gaze sweeping towards Yanaro, Bai Qingsong, and the rest. He didn't expect that Bai Qingsong from the Bai clan would actually appear here. Yet another group of warhorses galloped forward, only to hear Yanaro calmly saying, "Let me do it." The riders halted, and Yanaro galloped forward, arriving in front of Qin Wentian as he stared down at the silhouette on the ground. 2 consecutive times, yet you still haven't died. Today, I shall grant you your wish, Yanaro calmly stated. Back then, with his cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, he couldn't even deal with Qin Wentian, and had always felt ashamed of himself. Now, his innate techniques were even stronger than before, and his cultivation base had already reached the peak of the 7th level, with the possibility of opening his 8th meridian at any time. His combat prowess was a notch higher than before. Today, he would let Qin Wentian die under his sword. Sword-type astral soul was released. This was Yanaro's second astral soul, originating from the 3rd heavenly layer. A terrifying sword chi gushed forth from his body, and his eyes were akin to unsheathed swords. The falling snowflakes in the air were actually shattered by this sharp sword. Yanaro's broken sword incantation has already been cultivated to the 3rd level. There's no suspense in this battle. Even if Qin Wentian's combat prowess has improved by leaps and bounds, he will still die in Yanaro's hands. A young knight stated as he witnessed the scene, causing the spectators to nod their heads in agreement. He should have died a long time ago. Bai Qingsong's eyes flashed with a cold light. It was a miracle that Qin Wentian was still alive today. Bai Qingsong, Wentian has already dared to face an entire army head-on, while you and your daughter, Autumn Snow, can only drag out an ignoble existence under someone else's roof. Qin Chuan sarcastically replied, his words causing Bai Qingsong's countenance to turn even colder. He stared at Qin Chuan and stated, when he's dead, you won't be saying this anymore. Yanaro sat down on his warhorse, as he took a step forward. Sword Qi whistled through the air as he lunged towards Qin Wentian. Between the two of them, the snowflakes no longer drifted down. Since you wish for death so much, today, I shall grant you your wish. Yanaro's hands formed a sword incantation, as a terrifying sword intent gushed forth from his fingertips. What a powerful aura! The spectators watched as Yanaro slowly advanced, while Qin Wentian stood there, as though he could be destroyed at any moment. You are not worthy. Qin Wentian took a step forward, causing the snow on the ground to shatter as a terrifying aura gushed forth. This aura didn't belong to any other power, it belonged only to him. Although Qin Wentian didn't have any absolute combat prowess, the aura he exuded was akin to that of a peerless expert, exuding an aura of carefree and unrestrained confidence. Ha! Yanaro furrowed his brows, but soon after, a smile appeared on his face. Aura? That's nothing but a flash in the pan, unable to withstand a single blow. Yanaro continued walking forwards, and with every step he took, a powerful sword Qi could be felt tearing apart the air, shooting towards Qin Wentian. The accumulated snow on the ground, as well as the snowflakes around him, were all shredded into pieces. Is that so? Qin Wentian released his first astral soul, the Heavenly Hammer astral soul. At the same time, an astral heavenly hammer appeared in his hands, as he calmly stood there, akin to a towering mountain. No matter how violent the sword Qi was, he wouldn't budge. At the same time, the aura of the 6th level of arterial circulation gushed forth from Qin Wentian. His eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky, piercing towards Yanaro, causing Yanaro's eyes to tremble. Within Qin Wentian's eyes, Yanaro could see an intense sense of self-confidence, determination, and even arrogance. Such a gaze would cause people to involuntarily feel how insignificant they were. Boom! Qin Wentian took a step forwards, causing Yanaro's heart to tremble involuntarily. I don't believe it. Even if he's at the 6th level of arterial circulation, how can he shake me? Yanaro silently stated in his heart, as he continued stepping forwards. The sword Qi howled in rage, as though it was about to solidify. The shattering snowflakes caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. There's no suspense at all in this battle. Qin Wentian will die for sure. The spectators silently speculated in their hearts as they felt Yanaro's aura. They had no way to sense how much pressure Qin Wentian exerted on Yanaro with a casual step. They had no way to understand why Qin Wentian's steps were so resolute and confident. It was as though Qin Wentian knew that he wouldn't be defeated. Finally, when the distance between the two of them was only a single step, Yanaro jabbed out with his finger, causing numerous short swords to materialize in the air, before explosively shooting out. Hence, everything would be destroyed by this finger. Qin Wentian would die for sure. Boom! The heavenly hammer in Qin Wentian's hands smashed out without any fancy moves. When Yanaro saw this, he suddenly felt as though he was in an illusion. It was as though an entire mountain range was pressing down on him, gathering a boundless amount of energy as it blasted towards him, wanting to completely bury him alive. No. Yanaro's aura dissipated. At this moment, Qin Wentian gave him the impression that he was a peerless expert, and that Qin Wentian wanted to crush him to death. Rumble! The heavenly hammer smashed into the short swords, causing them to shatter at the same time. Yanaro retreated a few steps, while Qin Wentian took another step forward as he blasted out with his palm. What's going on? The expressions of the crowd froze when they saw this scene. Yanaro was actually at a disadvantage. Not only that, Qin Wentian's attack was filled with boundless might. Although Qin Wentian's attack wasn't strong, it was as though it was an innate technique capable of destroying the heavens and earth. Yanaro lifted his palms to attack, yet his aura had completely dissipated. Cracking sounds rang out as his palms trembled violently. Qin Wentian had grabbed hold of his arm, causing Yanaro's countenance to change. Earlier, this was the arm that pointed at my father. Now, I want it to be broken. Qin Wentian roared. With a flick of his palms, Yanaro screamed in agony as one of his arms was broken by Qin Wentian. How is this possible? The expressions of the crowd stiffened. The powerful Yanaro actually had his arm broken by Qin Wentian in a single strike. This caused the crowd to be unable to react. Even those escorting Qin Chuan didn't expect this to happen. You dare! Several enraged roars echoed out at the same time, as the warhorses galloped towards Qin Wentian. At the same time, a silhouette soared through the air, soaring through the air. Evidently, there was a Yuanfu realm cultivator among the escorting troops. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky, only to see the silhouette of the Yuanfu realm cultivator blasting out an ancient imprint towards him, transforming into a life-reaping halo. However, at the same time, the silhouette of a gigantic arm appeared in the air, slamming towards the life-reaping halo. An explosive sound echoed out as the arm and halo exploded at the same time. After which, a silhouette soared through the air, blocking the path of the Yuanfu realm cultivator. Celestial Arm Fist, who are you? The Yuanfu realm cultivator glared at the silhouette, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. That silhouette calmly replied, Qin Wentian, you are not allowed to move. Today, he dared to break out of the prison. He shall be executed. The eyes of that silhouette gleamed with a golden light, incomparably sharp. At the same time, the warhorses on the ground transformed into a hurricane, dashing towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's silhouette abruptly moved. Stomping on the ground, his silhouette transformed into a shadow as he dashed forward. At the same time, a silver-colored long spear appeared in his hands. Die! Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he howled in rage. The long spear in his hands shot out like a bolt of silver lightning. Chi, chi, chi. The silver spear slashed through the throats of the silhouettes, so fast that the warhorses didn't even have the time to dodge. In the air, fresh blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the white snow red. In the blink of an eye, the entire group of warhorses had lost their lives. However, there were still more warhorses rushing over. A second divine weapon appeared in Qin Wentian's hands, it was a heavenly halberd. Seeing the long spear in front of him, Qin Wentian took a step forward as the heavenly halberd shot out explosively. His opponent's long spear was directly knocked out of his hands, and the ancient halberd contained a terrifying amount of energy as it pierced straight into his opponent's heart. The warhorses neighed, and the warhorses behind them instantly halted. Qin Wentian lifted his ancient halberd horizontally, as a corpse was pinned at the tip of the ancient halberd, exuding a tyrannical aura. Who dares to come again? Qin Wentian roared in rage. The crowd was as silent as cicadas in winter, their gazes fixated on Qin Wentian. In the air, the two Yuanfu cultivators engaged in a fierce battle, yet the ground was completely silent. Only the blood of the corpse on the tip of the ancient halberd continued to drip onto the snowy ground. How powerful! The spectators didn't expect this young man to be so domineering and powerful. That skinny frame of his was akin to an ancient pine tree as he stood there. Yanaro, who was beneath his feet, was almost forgotten by the crowd. Interspatial divine inscription ring. The crowd glanced at the silver spear, and then glanced at the ancient halberd. These two divine weapons materialized out of thin air. Obviously, Qin Wentian had a divine inscription ring with a spatial dimension. It was impossible for ordinary cultivators to possess such a treasure. At this moment, an old man walked out from the side of Qin Chuan's prison. Stepping on the snowy ground, he walked towards Qin Wentian. Wentian, be careful. This old man is a Yuanfu cultivator. Qin Chuan roared. The old man was the one guarding him, and he naturally knew that the old man's cultivation base was at the Yuanfu realm. A sinister light flashed in the eyes of the old man as he walked towards Qin Wentian. But at this moment, a silhouette silently appeared behind Qin Wentian. The instant the silhouette appeared, the old man abruptly halted his steps. He glanced at the silhouette, and then glanced at the Yuanfu cultivators battling in the air. Who dared to support Qin Wentian? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.